Hit it.
Okay, we got them.
All right, guys. ClevelandMoto podcast number 444. 444. Light them up, boys. Oh, wait. And they're off. Christmas ale. We're back.
Christmas jail.
Fistmas ale.
I know. That's the taste that keeps on giving. We're here in our
Even tomorrow morning.
post-Halloween vibe. Yep.
Yeah.
So Tom's bartending. So if you hear bartending noises, that's because cocktails are being poured as they should be. To my immediate left is
Chris Smith.
To his left
Steve
is
Sleepy.
To his left is
Johnny Mac.
To his left is
Pete Hempling.
back. He's back. And then to his left
Darren Kromke.
and bartending.
Tom Pennington.
Tom Pennington. We don't have a bar back, so if you pledge at a certain level, you can be our bar back. Yep.
What would that level be? That's the bigger question.
Just fucking show up, honestly. Just show up. If you show up in your microphone shy, Dave Nolan came into the shop today. Dave Nolan, Dave's been around. People have been hanging around the podcast. You know, if you see a guy walk up that only has one leg, it's probably Dave. Dave had a close encounter with a Yamaha a few years ago that cost him his right leg. And how I know Dave is I was a manager at a painting company in Cleveland many, many years ago. And Dave got hired to be a journeyman painter as one of these guys. And he showed up, and the first time I met him, I was like, whoa, this dude is a special dude. He was driving a fragged out 4x4 Toyota pickup truck, and he was living in Lakewood at the time. And he, me and another guy that worked at the paint shop, we had old vintage Hondas. Oh. And so Dave would show up. He'd be like, yeah, I want to get a bike. I want to get a bike. I want to get a bike. And the whole time he worked at the paint shop, the whole time I worked with him at the paint shop, he didn't have a bike. The next time I saw him, he didn't have a leg. And then he told me a story about the Yamaha that took his leg. And I was like, dude, you should have not done motorcycles. Yeah. He says, no, I should have not done drugs. No. It's like, oops. But he's one of my favorite dudes because he runs a very cool company. Like, he's a very interesting guy. We love him a lot. But he came by today with this shit show of a motorcycle that he's riding that is a Honda CL350-ish. And then the back is a chrome alloy subframe that if he told you it was a Speedway bike, you'd go, I could buy that.
Yeah, it literally, when I saw it, I went, who's got the Speedway bike? And you were like, no, that's the one I was telling you about from a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a weird bag of tricks, that bike.
Oh, it is.
The motor is shit hot. The motor's not at all stock. There's something hiding in there. It's fancy, but there's all kinds of trickery too. Like you think it's got an oil tank on it, but that's not an oil tank motor. Well, the fake oil tank is actually where the battery lives. And
is it a choppy kind of thing?
I got a picture.
We'll find a picture for the people.
Is it a fast-looking Janus?
No. It literally looks like a Speedway bike with a big fat rear wheel on it,
and it's got spun aluminum disc wheels.
Oh,
solid wheels.
It's a pretty bike.
Yeah, it's really special.
And it's not like if you gave me a room full of parts, these are not the parts I would pick.
Is that the one that has the not a super hot tank on it?
It's got a little tiny tank on it.
Chrome panels on it, though? Like a CB160 or something?
No. This is just...
Because there was one of those, right? He had one of those.
He's got two bikes that he calls junk bikes. That
junk and disorderly.
Yeah, this is
junk and disorderly.
Almost like a Jelly Roll.
That must be... that other bike is his, though, too, I think.
If you can...
that's fun.
We still don't have the tech to throw that to the screen.
Yeah, but it's okay. I got something going on here. Yeah. Dave's got
that is a very wild machine.
Pile of weird bikes, but it's just a fucking weird machine, and it's one of those things where, and I will somehow try to find a picture of it if I can. I think I may have taken a picture of it a while ago, but the long and short of it is this: Dave's an interesting guy. I like him a lot, and so he came by today. We had to do a little title work for him. And when he showed up, I said, hey, man, why don't you come over to the podcast tonight? And he's like, no. I don't like talking to anybody I don't really know real well. He doesn't need that kind of pressure.
Wants to see it.
Yeah, he's a good cat. I'll just throw this picture up there.
I'm going to steal one of Dave's jokes. Dave's a real comedian.
Yes, he is.
He lost his leg 21 years ago. He stopped drinking at the same time, and he said his sobriety is now old enough to drink.
Exactly. and that is totally true. Like he's one of those guys that, and two, when you're having a party and you're having a good time, and Dave's right there with you, you're like, oh man, this guy can hang, and he's sober. And you're like, get the fuck out of here, not sober. It's true that he's a sober dude. Yeah, go ahead and throw that back. I'll find a picture here somehow, some way, and he's just that guy. He's just 100% that dude. I'll bet you I know who has a picture of it on their Facebook. It's probably Castillo.
Greg?
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Yeah, Greg probably has it on his Facebook because Dave doesn't post a lot on there. But but it is such a weird fucking bike. But it's got like the back tire is the front tire from an old dragster. It's a mishmash of weird. The bike is just a shit show. But he ain't afraid to ride it, and because he doesn't have control over his right foot, the motorcycle only has a rear brake. So he's rigged up a hydraulic master that goes on the handlebars where his front brake would normally be. That's why I would crash the bike instantly. There's just absolutely no doubt about it. My experience on that bike would be about 5 fucking seconds. I'll find a picture of it and put it in the show notes because it's worth looking at.
Having ridden enough horrible Triumph choppers over the years, I'd give it a go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I jumped out and sat in the parking lot. And he's like, hey, Phil, you want to take it for a spin? And I went, no. I want to be the second guy who crashes it.
Correct.
Yeah. I want to be crash number 2. I don't want to be crash number 1. But that bike's been kicking around Skidmark now for a little while. And so wasn't it there for, I mean, I remember that bike being at Skidmark months and months ago.
Was it there for fuel?
I think it was there for fuel. I think it was there for fuel.
You know what? I wanted to ask.
I think negotiations ensued and Dave ended up with it.
Would he? Yeah. Does he have like a clip-in bicycle cleat or something for his
he does.
foot? Because otherwise, it wouldn't stay on the
He's
peg,
had
right?
over the years. He's had different methods of making sure that his shoe stays on the peg.
Yeah.
One time I rode his bike and he had 2 carbide spikes coming up out of the peg, so that when his foot was sitting on it, it would kind of hang onto it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. And I was working on a bike and I grabbed the peg with my hand and I was like, they don't get dull.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No, they don't. They stay plenty fucking sharp. So, but yeah. Anyway, great cat. Yeah. Now, Pete, you've had the honor of doing some pretty big rides with him.
Yeah, Dave and I have been on a couple of epic adventures.
And you've done more than one. You've done TAT, right?
No, we did the Mid-Atlantic BDR.
You did Mid-Atlantic with him. Yeah.
What year was that? 2021.
Okay.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
We'd usually, his birthday's in October. We usually do a trip around his birthday every year in the fall.
Yeah.
But we went to Virginia this year to the BMW National down there.
I built a bike to do the BDR, and then while I was not doing the BDR, Dave came in and bought the bike for John.
For John Reinhardt, yeah.
For John Reinhardt.
Yep.
So I had set up this KLR with every intention of like, yeah, this is just going to be the bike that falls down a lot. And
it does. John is an accomplished rider, not so much off-road.
So it's living up to its design purpose?
Yes.
It's falling over a lot. Yeah, the last time I saw it, even the stuff that we got from your friend Kevin, from John's friend Kevin, that was, some prototype Secret Squirrel adventure shit.
It was Twisted Throttle stuff.
Yeah, we had a lot of very expensive shit found its way to that bike, and not all of it fit real good. So I had to really get creative with reinforcing it. And I did this.
Wanted to put it all together, and the holes didn't line up.
The holes didn't line up, not even close. And so the last time I saw John's bike, or my old bike, at Mid-Ohio, it had looked like Godzilla had taken one large bite at it, right? And what the fuck happened there? And I was like, well, those guys they got a booth over there. You can go complain if their shit's not right. And Dave goes, no, that shit works good. There's no complaints here that it's not performing its job admirably, but it's been tested. Yeah.
John just rode that bike this fall on the Skidmark 300.
Yep. Yeah. And so our special guest that we were going to have tonight that put us off for a little while, we were going to have Shafran come out because we definitely need to talk to him about Skid Mark 300. We need to talk to him about that event and, you know, how great that was and how that's exactly right up our fucking alley.
That'd be a good time to get Nolan out too.
Yeah, exactly.
Nolan was there,
exactly.
Reinhardt, Steve Noble. It was a really nice crowd there.
That's the kind of event that we all need to do more of. That's the kind of thing that I think everybody needs to find a way to make that work. I've dedicated way too much of my time this year to running the business and not enough time to going out and having fun. Now, I'm not saying the economy's in the fucking toilet, but next year I'm going to have a lot more time to go out and have fun. Take that as a tip from your Uncle Phil.
I told myself that lie when I retired.
Yeah.
It's not really working out.
It isn't, is it? No. You're like, oh, when I retire, I'm going to have all this time. Not either.
Today would have been a perfect day for a fall motorcycle ride. 60 degrees and sunny, dry.
Uh-huh.
I was at my mom's house raking leaves.
Jesus Christ, man. Dave showed up.
Idiot.
Dave showed up. He was riding. I went out and I was able to take a few blasts on various motorcycles today, which was very nice. I rode a Triumph Bobber 1200. And, you know, it's very funny that I have the Triumph Scrambler 1200 and the Bobber 1200 uses the same motor, right? Those two bikes couldn't be more fucking different. Like, to say, well, they're both Triumphs and they're both 1200s. That is the end of the story. That is where it becomes not the same at all remotely anymore. The Scrambler sits up and you're on top of it and you're like, here I am. I'm an adventure bike and I'm up in the wind doing adventure bike things.
Rock you like a hurricane.
Fuck yeah, man. And I have the feeling on that bike like I could go anywhere and do anything.
Triumph did the same thing with the 955 Triple some years ago. They had the Sprint. They had the original Tiger. Oh, it wasn't the original Tiger, but they had this Tiger on that same.
The Tiger on the same platform.
There was a third bike there. I don't remember what the other one was called, but yeah, same thing.
Yeah, and if you go way back to the old Triumph, the Thunder Chicken, right, and you go back to all the different versions of that the 3-cylinder, motor that they had, it is absolutely true that bobber I rode today, it feels. Well, it has the low handlebars that I don't care for. Like when you're riding a bike, I like the handlebars to kind of be like where my hands would normally be. But in the idea of styling, the handlebars on this thing are kind of fucking low. And it is a solo saddle, so it's just one of those things. But the bike feels
it's so low that it matches the handlebars.
It is. I think if you were a 5'2" person, it would actually be an easy bike to ride, despite the fact that it's 1,200 cc's. I personally, I think we're all hearing it. I don't know if it's making it through to the cut, but we're definitely hearing it in our headphones. Yeah.
There's somebody's phone?
No.
Yeah, there's definitely a phone.
Yeah. Well, a phone chimed in at the same time. So anyway.
Kind of a buzzing drip thing.
Back to motorcycles while we're checking our phones. I don't care for the riding position of the bobber, the Triumph bobber. But I had it up on 480 and I got it up to about 100 miles an hour. And whereas my 1200 Scrambler at 100 miles an hour feels like it's got a whole lot of party left in it, right? And this thing at 100 miles an hour, I was literally pinning on the throttle. I mean, that's where it was. And so you can tell that, they're definitely geared for different jobs, for sure. And the 1200 bobber felt real small under me. It felt like a very small bike. And the other bike that does that to me is the Indian Scout. The Indian Scout underneath me, it's a 1,000 cc bike and it's a V-twin. But when I'm riding it, it feels like it's a 7/8 scale motorcycle. It doesn't feel like it's a full-size bike.
What's the suspension like on the bobber?
Minimal.
Because I rode next to a dude one time that had one, and it looked like you have about 1.5 inches on the back, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't hit anything big enough to find out. But
that's good.
But I didn't hit a big enough hole or anything to find out how good or bad the suspension really was. But
it's Smith.
It definitely was one of those things that riding that motorcycle, to me, I like the aesthetic of it. I like sitting back and looking at it. It looks fucking cool. But
the first time I saw one, I saw the Amol knockoff throttle bodies for the fuel injection.
Right.
I looked at it and went, "What the hell? Why would you?" And then I went, "No, this fits with the whole bobber motif, the whole Triumph." vintage motif. Like I've only ever seen them in black, but I really would love to see one in an olive drab.
Right. Yeah. Because I think that color would really look good on that bike. Yeah.
Because if you did a whole World War II olive drabish, BSA throwback, Triumph throwback,
it would look
military
badass.
bike, it would look amazing.
Fucking fantastic. I'll throw a picture
and they
of it.
already look pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Like the first time I saw one, I went, well, okay, I could ride that.
I remember it was about 278 podcasts ago where we had one at the shop, and we brought it out to have anybody that was in our podcast group. We challenged them to show us where the exhaust went, because the exhaust looks like you think you know where it's going.
Well, that's that new Triumph motor.
The exhaust doesn't go exactly where you think the exhaust should go. You look at that and you're like, yeah, that's two pipes. There's a left pipe and a right pipe.
And then there's a catalytic converter hidden right underneath the oil pan.
Yeah. So underneath that motorcycle, in the middle of it, what you can't see is the catalytic converter. And there's a lot of X's that happen. And that, from about this point on, that pipe is just a shroud.
Yep.
Yeah. It's very... but the one I rode was black,
I think I have only seen them in black.
I saw a dark blue one, I think.
It's kind of a denim color. Yeah.
I think that was a few years old.
Harley's famous for that.
Probably, yeah.
They have. It's funny because they list the color, like they list the titanium color, and when you click on it, it still looks black. It still looks black. Like, hey man, I wonder if that bike comes in any color other than black. Oh wait, it comes in red. Yeah. But it's not a bad looking bike. It's not it looks cool.
It really does look the part. Like it's not a lie.
Yeah. And I don't know whether that 1200 motor, to me, it doesn't look big and it doesn't look small. It just fills up the space in the middle of the motorcycle just perfectly. Yeah. And I'm still from the school where like a 1200cc motor should be intimidating. Like a 1200cc motor should at least look big.
Aesthetically, right? Triumph has got it down.
I think Dan's bike has more power.
Yeah, probably.
I think that the seat kind of floating in midair just looks weird to me. I like the way the Speedmaster looks better.
Sure. Yeah, I could definitely see that. It's as far as I can tell, Triumph has done a really, really good job designing a bunch of bikes that people do want to buy.
Yeah.
They do have a lot of models, so they're just killing it right now.
Well, but didn't they now in recent news? Didn't you just tell me they discontinued the Thruxton?
The Thruxton? No, they didn't discontinue it. They are this year. They're taking their victory lap. So they didn't discontinue it, but they're calling it the last Thruxton.
Yeah.
So the Thruxton that you can buy right is the last Thruxton. Right. So just one of those things, right? Where they're telling people that it's over. And if you want to get in on this, this is your last opportunity to buy a Thruxton. I don't know if that means enough to me that I would be like, well, I need to go out and buy that.
Because because the big question is, are they going to discontinue the entire Cafe Racer theme of the Bonneville? Because the entire reason the Bonneville exists. So
to clarify for our podcast listeners at home, what we're talking about is the Thruxton Final Edition.
Yeah.
And the Thruxton Final Edition, that is a hell of a declarative statement on a bike that they've been building for a very long time. I mean, what year's your Thruxton?
2001, I think.
Yeah, so 20 plus years.
And that's still like 2 years in, I think, because they had I think the early ones were 800.
Yeah. And that's the Thruxton Final Edition. Now, it's not cheap. I mean,
that's gonna be almost 20 grand with tax, title, license.
Yeah,
and all
it's not a cheap bike. I don't think we're trying to even suggest that it's a cheap bike.
Well, how much was your how much was your Scrambler new?
About 16.
So
$16,999. Yeah.
Triumph special editions, man.
Believe me, guys, I didn't pay that. I did not pay that. I want to make that very clear. If anybody sitting at this table, if you think I spent $16,999 on a motorcycle, you are fucking wrong. That was the creative use of horse trading. Yeah, that was for like 2 Vespas and a player to be named later. There was absolutely no.
That's the thing is somebody is going to buy this. This is going to be the thing they have to buy.
Or did Triumph do something very clever by saying the final Thruxton? Because that's going to draw some people to the trough. That is always going to have a chance to be like, honey, this is my last chance to buy a Thruxton. We've been talking about it for about 20 years.
Honey says, fuck you. They're coming out with another one in 5 years. Hang on.
Well, didn't you see the Royal Enfield 1200? That's going to be the
final Royal Enfield.
Right.
It's like
marketing
the Rolling Stones final tour.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I've been to 3 Who final tours.
there you go.
Right. I've seen the Who's last show 3 times.
The marketing team came from a mega church right after the last Rapture didn't happen.
Right.
But it has all the normal stuff.
then-
It looks like a Thruxton.
And like we talked about, this
Yeah.
is going to become instead of having a Thruxton edition, you're going to walk in and check off all the boxes
Yes.
for
Yeah.
the upside down forks, the the shocks on the rear, the upswept pipes. If there's any one thing I could change about my bike, it would be the upswept pipes.
Yours has it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've got the whole British, the British Customs pipes on mine.
Okay, yeah, right,
Yeah, where they're
right.
upswept like
Right.
that. And the problem is you can't put any luggage on it.
Yeah, and that's the downside too in my Scrambler.
Yeah.
Is in the Scrambler, you can only put luggage on one side of it. So on the left side of the motorcycle, you have your luggage. On the right side of the motorcycle, you have a 2nd-degree burn on your inner thigh.
Right.
And as long as you're cool with that,
Such
this
is
is
life
fine.
with a Scrambler.
Yeah, that's fine. I've ridden Scramblers that had factory single wall normal tube pipes
yeah.
that ran cooler than this brand new Triumph 1200 Scrambler. They've figured out a way through catalytic converters and special metals to make it actually hotter on the outside than on the inside. That motherfucker burns you. I can get about 5 miles into the ride before I don't want any part of my body to hit the part of your pipe that is designed to have a part of your body hit. That's got like 3 heat shields on it. It's fucking hot, man.
I'm finding that with the Intruder, the left pipe is like, I haven't burnt myself on it, but it's hot and it's right there. I'm like, wow.
It's a good bike for Dave Nolan because he has a fake leg.
Perfect.
How's that pipe feel? Fuck you, man. Fuck you.
Hey, what's that smell?
It's your carbon fiber. Yeah, it's your
Did
carbon
I just
fiber
run over
leg.
a plastic bag or something?
Right. Oh, man. So, but that's
Just
gonna.
So those of you at home that are under the $10 Patreon level, the past 30 seconds.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Just on an FYI, I have a really long message.
Do it.
Well, it's from Matt Davidson, and
All right.
he's as he says, a little bit gruntled.
He should be gruntled. He's not sending any messages to the Patreon.
Well,
If he says he is,
he seems he has a bone to pick with you.
you know what? He's
You know
more
about
than,
this?
You know what? He's fired several shots over the bow, John. Let me tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I just getting in the middle of this?
I
somehow?
don't know. Hey.
I don't.
All I know
I
is
feel like I'm not reading this out loud just yet. I think we need to sidebar on this before I come up with a cohesive thing. Now I don't know whether I'm in trouble with him or not if I get into this or
hey.
I have to live with both of you and
I'm
to live with
intrigued.
both of you.
I know, I am too. I'm a little interested now.
You can't just throw a teaser out like that.
see, most of his gruntleness is a picture you put up that made it to YouTube.
YouTube.
Was it one of his famous pictures and somehow it got out there or something like that? I don't know.
I have no idea.
We might have to think about this.
Yeah, I have We've never posted a picture like, oh, this is going to YouTube.
Well, his words were, he had consent, we didn't. Or
Oh, this was the consent episode.
it might be.
This was the consent episode.
my.
Yeah.
This was the episode about
mean-
consent.
This is how much it is.
Oh my God, that's
we
an
have
8-pager.
We probably need to read that off.
We probably should.
Maybe we'll have to respond to this next podcast, Matt.
Right? Yeah.
Because I have to share this with Phil.
Because it
first.
sounds like and the other thing too is like
You've written quite a tome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I'm sure he has very well earned and strong opinions.
You fuckers
Delete.
raked me over the coals every goddamn week.
Oh really? Oh, every week.
Wait,
It's my favorite kind of.
We haven't been that reliable
feedback.
about anything.
Does he work for
Favorite
Harley
kind of-
Davidson?
Is this
Back.
Matt Davidson of the famous Harley Davidson?
I was gonna say, is this a Harley Davidson Sportster? 'Cause
Dude,
that's
we
the
can't
only
even-
we rake over the coals every week.
We can't even give our podcast listeners a podcast every week.
I know, right?
And Matt, I don't remember raking Matt over the coals. How was that? Were we?
Do I know
what did
this guy?
Well, how were we punking on him? I got to go now. I got to listen to a podcast to find out what we said.
Man, don't listen to the old
I'm not
episodes.
fucking doing that.
Don't do it.
I don't even listen to my voice every week. It's fine.
Don't do it. It's not worth it.
All kinds of cozy dudes.
Wow.
Jesus,
I'm so
what is
lost
going
right
on
now.
here?
Generic
I have no idea.
Viagra. I don't know. You'll have to read this.
Oh,
one.
does he own a
Dude,
Harley?
he writes a good letter though.
Does he
writes
ride a Harley
letter.
Sportster, and does he does he
No.
bootleg Viagra to Mexico?
Tom, you weren't even here for this.
God damn.
You don't even remember.
No.
Matt Davidson in his prime. You missed all that.
Okay.
But that's fine.
Well, I mean, it doesn't get into here.
Good Lord, that is a really long email.
He was punking us for everything.
Right.
Everything.
He was taking shots at us left, right, and center.
But then he's saying, speaking of actually wrenching, I've got an odd one that I cannot figure out for the life of me. 64 Dream 250 is running away when the clutch is pulled in between gears.
Yeah.
Adjust the clutch, Matt.
Man.
You don't know how to adjust the clutch? Let's rag on him some. No.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
I'm like, Matt,
There's John extending
if
the
we're
old
fighting,
olive
then let's
branch.
fight.
I mean, on the one hand, the olive
I love how
branch,
John went from, we're going to be diplomatic. We're going to review this letter in great detail. We're going to come up with a concise approach to this. Oh, tech tip? Oh, so wait, you're going to bust my balls and ask me for advice? Oh, and you know what? He's sending it to John because if you're busting my balls, I'm not going to give you tech help.
Right.
But anyway, but John always will give you tech help.
It starts.
It's
let's idles great runs.
No, look,
We're not going to give him a tech tip.
All right,
Until we read his whole. Until we read his whole.
I guess you're gonna have to wait till next week.
Yeah, when we read your letter.
And then you'll have another disgruntled letter on top of the disgruntled letter, and it's going to get real weird because the disgruntledness is going to be going back and forth and swirling around and around.
I think it's better if we put him on simmer for at least a week.
Well, apparently we've been busting his balls.
Shadow band.
He is still I think he's not a Patreon anymore, but he's still an avid listener.
There
he
you
was.
go.
He messaged me earlier today and said he wanted to know if we were doing the podcast.
Our critics
tonight.
are some of our best listeners.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I sat through every disgusting minute of this shit twice.
So have I.
But somehow, I mean, I think he wants an apology from me.
Oh, well, you know what? We will review the tape.
Yeah.
We will review the tape.
We got to do some research and find out where we
Look,
are.
look,
on this.
The good news is Sleepy put all of them on YouTube.
Right. Well, last podcast we ate crow over the.
Oh, we've proven we can eat
Moto,
crow.
yeah.
We've proven we can eat crow.
But then he is talking about another bottle of Cedar Ridge and maybe some THC infused seltzer for cinch.
So I want you to know with Matt Davidson,
it's nuts.
it can be an ugly love affair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all in if he brings me some fucking THC.
It could be a little bit of a
Sleepy will apologize.
It might be a little bit of
nobody's business.
a little bit of an abusive relationship going there with Matt Davidson.
Like a hot chick.
Well, you know,
If they're yeah.
everybody should date a stripper at least once. That's it.
Oh, Matt.
Too much car for you, son. All right, you guys want to?
Sometime Matt's going to have to be able to respond to all this real time. And maybe
Well, this is why I keep
come to the podcast.
This
or
is why I
something,
keep
or at least
recommending a
in Mid-Ohio.
Discord.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Right on.
It's on the Discord.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. That's fantastic.
But I know that he really wanted to write this long thing, and so I don't think we can read it word for word without reading it all first.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
And
yeah.
then asking for tech tips.
We need to be prepared and talk with our lawyers.
As your lawyer, I advise you to drink that bourbon.
I am going to drink that bourbon. I thought about this bourbon all day.
All right. So, would you like to hear a letter from a Patreon?
Yes. The hate mail. Let's get on with it.
Wait, can I circle
You
back
mean
to
an
something
actual
from last week real
actual
quick?
Patreon?
I'd like to circle back real quick to Barber. from
Oh, yeah,
last
yeah.
week.
Oh,
Please
yeah.
do. Yeah.
I love Barber. I'm just going to say. I just wanted to get that out there.
That's fair.
I don't think I ever said it in those words. I love you, Barber.
Look.
Bar.
I love you, Barber. Well, I'm going to make a concerted effort to make sure I'm at Barber next year so I can develop them.
We're like as soon as the tickets come up, I'm just gonna bounce on it. So
That's cool.
I love Mid Ohio too. Don't get me wrong. Mid Ohio's like your drunk uncle, you know. But Barber it's class act and it's fun.
no,
Just saying.
That is, and that's the idea. Is everybody does need to have that. Like, you got to compare them. You got to literally be like, I got two uncles. One of them might have just actually took $30 out of my wallet without asking.
Yeah.
And the other guy might have got me like a really cool thing. But they're still my uncles and I love them. You know? That's
Exactly.
it.
That's
Yeah.
right there.
In case you're wondering which uncle it is, Mid-Ohio is the first one.
Yeah, right.
So what you're saying is Mid-Ohio is Uncle Touchy.
I've never gone to the hospital because of going to a museum, and I've gone to the hospital because of Vintage Days.
Uncle Touchy.
At AMA Vintage Days. So, yeah.
Mid-Ohio is a Honda Trail 90 barn find that barely runs.
Yes, that's true.
Barber Vintage is like a fully restored Honda Trail 90, or maybe a Honda Hunter Cub, a brand new one.
Like a brand new Hunter Cub.
I love them
That's
both.
some jackass based in Grand Fort Meekum.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That seems fair. I have no problem with that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Get that out there. Yeah.
So you guys may remember a couple of weeks ago, a couple of episodes ago, because he remembers.
Okay, well, yeah.
Ryan Hegdahl, probably a Viking. Because that's what he does. He runs the Bifrost. That's his job.
Right.
Call him Sven.
Hegdahl.
Right. Hegdahl. Hey guys, thanks for the advice a couple of episodes ago. He's the guy that had his grandfather's Honda CB750K, 77 CB750K with 77,000 miles on it.
Yep.
And he was talking about how far should he go into the cylinders. And he was also talking about the idea of potentially running his Honda, his vintage MT, Elsinore, with no bateria, but instead using capacitors.
Capacitor, yeah.
Right. And we said,
I shit all over that.
there you go. Okay.
You know I would.
Well, we didn't lose a listener.
Oh, good.
Okay, he's back. Hey, guys, thanks for the advice a couple of episodes ago. I'm still a little new to working on bikes, but have been building stock car engines and dirt track cars for almost 20 years now.
Oh, that dude can make anything work, I bet you.
Right.
Thus, the reason for asking about the pistons, because in an engine you will be rebuilding 2 to 3 times a year, pistons are regularly reused, unlike the piston in my 2013 KXF that we talked about, that I just sold after putting its 5th piston in 2 years, partially because I'm just hard on stuff. And honestly, dirt bikes, that's a different science.
That's fair.
That's a different science. We don't keep dirt bike pistons around.
I mean,
They're cheap.
I know I argued against, like, hey, if they look good, keep them.
Right.
They do have 77,000 miles on them. Honestly, like I
Well, no,
said,
this is
This is a dirt
This
bike.
is a KFX.
Oh, okay.
This is his dirt bike.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking about his dirt bike.
Not
And
the
it doesn't matter because he sold it. So the dirt bike is not an issue.
John's like rubbing his
I
nose
know.
and getting ready to go.
He's like,
Well,
Davidson's got him worked up a little
Yeah, he
bit.
does.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just saying, like,
He's the only one that's seen it.
There you go. Okay.
I don't really
So
care about much except the bikes. I don't care
the
about the
Kawasaki-
people.
right.
I don't care about you. I don't care about any of you or any of this. I only care about the bikes
And the naked pictures.
and the
Right.
naked pictures.
And the naked pictures.
Mostly, that.
I love
All
you
right.
So if
too,
you're
buddy.
going to send us dick pics,
So
send
he
us in
sold-
care of.
We never said what kind of naked pictures.
Right.
He sold his 2013 KXF, and he did mention that, right? So he did put 5 pistons in 2 years. Yay.
Jeez.
But I'm going to go back to the thing where he says, in an engine, you'll be rebuilding 2 to 3 times a year because he's doing what? He's doing motorsports.
Yeah.
He's racing cars, right? Okay. And on the topic of taking my MT to Vintage Days, unfortunately, my Elsinore will not be ARMA legal due to the use of a 1999 gas TXT 321 fork, custom-made 6061 triple set, and its Brembo Hebo brake setup front and rear. You know shit, really?
Right.
You're not ARMA legal?
Right.
Shocking.
Well,
Shocking.
If you're good enough to put all that on it, you could take it all back off and throw some shit on it for the weekend.
Pending
Actually, you could probably go there and buy it and put it on.
Pending engine inspection on the MT125 engine, I may be swapping the old Trials engine in as well, but will require some major frame alterations. So that one is a last resort.
Wait, I'm trying to understand. Trials engine, wouldn't that be a 4-stroke? I mean, what is? Wait,
No, I think what he's talking. Right. Well,
The motorcycle of Theseus right here.
exactly. This is exactly right. It's got the original sail, Tom.
The original,
Right.
There's like one piece of the backbone that's still around.
And this guy started off with like, I just started working on motorcycles.
Yeah.
He's like the guy like, you guys want to play poker? I don't really know how to play.
Right.
But,
And he brings out his own chips with his name on them. Right.
let me see what you got over there. Oh, I fold that. 4 aces,
Yeah.
fold.
Did he just rope a dope?
Yeah.
All right.
You
So
look him up.
anyway,
He's the second founder of Penton.
pending
This is a segue, by the way.
pending engine inspection on the MT-125 engine. So he's saying he has an MT-125 engine that came with the frame.
We assume.
Because all that's left of this bike is the seat, the frame, and the motor.
Right.
Right? Because everything else has been swapped.
Right,
Looks
except
like
for
it.
the pistons.
Okay. All right.
Piston.
Piston.
No, the pistons, Tom, were in the fucking Kawasaki. Keep with the
Not
program.
necessarily.
He said he sold the Kawasaki,
No,
then he
but-
changed 5 pistons in.
Right, he might be changing 3 pistons in
Hey,
the MT.
Tom, it was a 5-cylinder Kawasaki.
So wait, he put a Banshee piston in the MT.
No, guys. God damn it. It's in front of you, man. Okay.
No, the cylinder was empty. That's why I had to
Right?
put the piston in.
In the Kawasaki or on the Honda?
Wait. Third base.
I'm going to go outside and shoot myself. All right. You may continue without me. But what I do like, when he says, like, pending an engine inspection on the MT-125 engine, look, you said you can't race an Arma because your suspension and hot shit brakes. Right? Right. Your fork, your suspension, your hot shit brake, you're not going to race an Arma.
Right.
My question is, why on earth do you still have an MT-125 engine in this sack of shit? Here's why. Because he might be swapping the old Trials engine as well. And I think you're right. I think that somewhere in his world, he has a gas 321 motor. That would be the Trials motor.
Okay.
Okay? But putting a gas Trials motor into an MT-125 Elsinore, which isn't even technically from the same century,
Right.
might require a wee bit of fitment, right? I
You're
see.
going to have to get out the hot melt glue.
You are going to need to get out the electric metal melter.
Some
Yes.
glitter, a little
Yeah.
bit of, yeah.
A visit to
So-
the old Harbor Freight would be in order.
Yep.
So again, he says, P.S. Great job on pronouncing my last name. People almost never get it right, even after I say it to them.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's a pretty easy one.
So
you
yeah.
mean Ryan's problem?
Yeah.
What?
Right.
What's wrong with the original gas? He only had, it was totaled or something?
I've got a feeling that the gas isn't running because he took the fork off of it. He took the suspension. He took the brakes off of it. And everything else.
I think
Why don't you put everything back on the gas?
because at this point you're building the gas gas.
I think the gas hasn't been framed.
Okay. That would make some sense.
Right.
If it's a donor bike, then
Right.
yeah.
I think the gas probably hasn't been
Or,
framed.
I mean, is it a gas a straight
Now-
trials bike? Because it's not fun to ride a
They
trials
don't make
bike.
no gas any other kinds of bike
Right.
bikes.
No,
They
it's
do.
gas-
They make a few.
No, that's the drop seat trials thing where you're supposed to do backflips over a mobile home.
Like Gas has quite a few dirt bikes, like red
Okay,
Gas
we stand corrected, but the one he has is a trial.
Yeah, the one he's got is
that's
a trials.
No, but that
And
was my
Phil-
point.
Yeah.
My point is, if it's a trials bike, they're not really a lot of fun to ride after you do some trials. Like
Phil-
you're not going down trails happily on a trials bike.
Are we talking about the Honda or the Kawasaki or the gas?
The Kawasaki's gone, boys.
Third base.
Yeah.
Phil, it's Heimdall is the one that's the
That's what I said. He runs the Bifrost.
Hegdahl is not.
Hegdahl runs the Bifrost.
No, Heimdall.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just to let you guys know what motorcycle he has. You know what bike
We're
is.
very confused about this because it's either a gas, an Elsinore, or a Kawasaki. But you said the Kawasaki's gone, so now he's got half a gas, and half a Honda.
Well, I'm going to cast this up to the picture so you guys can see it. This is the gas.
Right.
He's got half a gas. He just has a gas.
Right.
He's just got gas.
So the TXT 321 is not a street legal gas.
Yeah.
So to be as clear as we can possibly be, a TXT 321 is not something that you can race in Arma vintage class on the Mid Ohio, right?
Is the MT? I mean, that MT 125 could have been street legal at one point.
Oh, yeah.
Is it street legal now? Or
Do you know
is
why? Do you know why you know that it was street legal at one point? Because you spent the last podcast talking about batteries.
Yeah,
And lights.
putting lights and everything. I wasn't sure if he was actually right. Well, but he did say turn signals, didn't he, or something like that? Yeah,
Yeah.
I just know that in general that they are. And my biggest question, I'm from Ohio. Does he have a title? I mean, he actually is putting it on the street. Then that does make some sense. You've got this one bike here that has a titled frame and everything, and you can ride it on the street. So you're going to put move everything off of the gas onto that.
Yeah,
and
exactly,
something worth
right.
riding on the street.
Right. Yeah.
And I
And
kind of see
I'm
that.
just not sure because I mean the only time I've ever seen specifically this bike was with Scott Smallwood doing a whoopty after Alex showed up with one at a rally one time.
I've ridden 2 trials
And-
bikes on the street in my life.
Yeah.
And both of them were trials bikes that were identified as being street legal trials bikes.
Yeah,
the first was the Honda Reflex,
Yeah.
which was bad. The second,
Thank you for that, because I've always wanted to buy one, and now I don't.
I refer you to any one of the 9,000 articles written in Cycle World magazine about how Honda tried to market that to young people as being a street legal 250cc motorcycle, but it's 200cc Reflex 200. Thank you, TL 200.
TL 200.
But it's just a too heavy trials bike, right? And the second one was the Sherco. And I rode the Sherco, and the Sherco was their cross. Like, it was their cross bike. It was supposed to be a street and a trials bike. And even that was very unrideable on the freeway for sure, and really bad for kind of the middle of the road shit. So,
I mean, I was thinking when he's talking about putting that motor and trying to ride that on the street, it's going to be a really weird transmission, unless it was originally, because even like the Sherco has.
Did you ride the Sherco?
I didn't get to ride the Sherco.
First, second, and
you
third
put a
gear?
second anus in yourself before I got a chance to ride it.
John was like, I can't wait for him to bring it around, and I'll take that thing for a ride.
Right.
And then he was like, no, he's bleeding.
We got sidetracked
From his butthole.
And then you took it and you parked it way in the back, and we're like, that thing's cursed.
Well, so first, second, and third gear are all lower than any other motorcycle's first gear.
Yeah.
And then fourth and fifth gear are like any other motorcycle's second and third,
But
or
that's
third
because
and fourth.
that was purpose built to be a street trail.
The whole
street trial.
Yeah, the whole idea was
This motor is going to just be a short ratio of 5-speed.
Yeah.
And so you have choices. You can leave it low geared so you can do trials with it. You need a dual sprocket on the back or something, or what are you going to do? You know, like.
So I think his idea of that motor that's in the Gas 321 is a great liquid cooled motor that's going to give you way fucking more power than you'll ever want or need, as long as it's going into a transmission that has the gear range that can support it to 75 or 80 miles an hour.
It's still going to kind of be wrong though too, because
it's still a light switch 2-stroke.
No. Well, yes.
I think this one's a 4-stroke actually. Yeah.
Well, I need my spectacles then because I really can't see what it is. I assumed it was a 2-stroke. But even still, when they build those 2-strokes for the trials bike, a 2-stroke can actually be a really torquey motor, and they don't build them peaky.
This one is 2-stroke, so
it's not going to be a peaky. It's not going to want to be like a rip.
17 horsepower. 328 cc's. And that's 16 horsepower at 5,200 RPM.
Okay, so you're almost better off with the MT motor, because the MT motor probably put out almost over 10. Maybe 12. It might even do 17 horsepower with the right transmission for street trail. You know, so I don't know.
I agree that he's not allowed an ARMA class because the bike is basically an MT frame, an MT motor, but aftermarket suspension front and rear. So ARMA's not going to let him play along with them. So at this point, cut bait, put the Froggy motor in it, have fun, or keep the MT motor in it.
I'd run the MT motor. I'd look at the MT motor.
I would too.
I'd put it back in, and I'd ride it like that.
I would too.
And see what it's like. I don't know that you're going to gain a whole lot by putting that 321 in it.
And it does have the lifespan of a 2-stroke.
I mean, if you really wanted to do, if you're going to do something like that, then do something fun, like put a CR125 liquid cooler.
I'd really,
I bet you this motor's a lot froggier, because remember, this is a 300. This is just like that Sherco I was riding. This is a large single cylinder 2-stroke. 328 cc's of 2-stroke is fucking scary.
It's going to have a lot of bottom end.
It's a 6-speed gearbox.
It's counterintuitive, but those 2-strokes can have bottom end.
Oh yeah, they can. Yeah, very much so. Especially trials bikes, they will stand you right up and make you.
Well, that's why people love.
They'll rip a hole in your ass.
2-stroke trail bikes is because they'll tractor uphill. You can get things.
Yeah, very cool. Very interesting. Very interesting letter though, because that idea, that's a real fucking dog's breakfast. You know, that's kind of all over the place. Yay! I love that shit.
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it, but I kind of
maybe he just wanted that motor in a motorcycle that has a seat on it.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
I want to be able to sit down.
I would love to sit down.
See, I'd be figuring out.
Legs are tired.
I'd be figuring out a way to put a fake gas tank in a seat and just call it a day. You know, like a Tomos a Puch moped. Yeah. You know, just get an old.
For a motorcycle that's called gas, it doesn't look like it carries much.
No, that's true too.
Good point.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it holds a whole lot of that. The gas, right? Anyway, thought that was pretty fucking badass.
I'm interested. Maybe we'll see it at Mid-Ohio next year.
Yeah.
Around
right.
the barrels because he's not racing Arma.
Well, that's the point is if they won't let you on the track with a license and a ticket, then you got to go out and be an asshole on the other 20,000 acres.
Everywhere else.
Everywhere
Exactly. Yeah, I got to come out and annoy you assholes because they wouldn't let me join. Hey, there's always the hair scrambles. And we know they will let anything in the hair scramble.
I was also thinking about Mid-Ohio, and they got the people across the street from us over there.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'd rent us their yard. And then we could just do barrel racing over there.
Oh, man.
Well, no, that's an entire liability issue.
Oh, man.
I can tell you from some experience that just because one thing happened this year doesn't mean the same thing will happen next year.
That's been true.
Like there have been all kinds of little adjustments here, and like one year they did this, and I was like, oh, but then it went away. So we'll see.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly it. I've never seen Mid-Ohio be the same event twice. I've never ever said. Go ahead, Ned.
Did you see they repaved the track?
Yeah.
Finished like a week ago.
Yeah. That's a lot of money. Yeah.
I had a friend that has a track bike, and he specifically held on to it when he was going to sell it this year because he wants to ride it there next year.
Yep,
on the
absolutely.
on the fresh pavement.
Yep. Yeah, I'm the same exact thing. I'm absolutely looking forward to doing a track day or two.
Well, that was part of the deal to get Moto America back. And that's why we get to have Moto America weekend, which is kind of a throwback to AMA Vintage Days next year, is because they agreed to repave the track. That was because they're going to bring, that's a whole nother weekend.
Really?
Oh, yeah, because Moto America is actually picking up steam. They're starting to get crowds of 10,000, 15,000 people at the weekends. So that's going to be another big boost for Mid-Ohio.
That is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. That's very good. Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of that. Okay. Speaking of podcast advice we gave in the past, Stump the Chumps, right? Mm-hmm. Do you guys remember Brian sent us a message about apparently he had a lightning strike at his house and the battery tender jumped in front of his motorcycle and saved it?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Guess what?
What's up?
He's done some forensic diagnostics.
Nice. All right.
He figured out where the smoke came out. Here you go. Based on your extensive discussion of my situation on the podcast, I went and performed an autopsy on the Chargers.
All right.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the fuses inside the Chargers were all still good, which is news to me. I didn't think they had fuses.
Oh, no.
I think they just had points where explosions happened and nothing went through them anymore. If you want to call that a fuse, I guess it's a fuse.
Actually, I should check that.
That's exactly what a fuse is.
Right, exactly. I didn't think it'd be necessary. Like I took the black plastic housing apart, there'd actually be something in there I'd recognize as a fuse.
Right.
I just thought there would be a gap that was a little thinner than the rest of them. And when we were kids working on Dodges, we called those fusible links. And it was just the spot where the electricity couldn't fit through anymore, and it would burn up, and that solved your problem. Okay. Unfortunately, the fuses inside the Chargers were all still good. I did find the failure. It was a bit obvious. I found a cratered hole in one of the magic parts inside. Look at the image posted here. And I'm going to tell you that the magic hole, it's legit. Yeah, that's legit.
Oh, in the microchip, no less.
And that's
The processor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if
That's
you're
a wild spot. So your rock is no longer broadcasting electricity.
I'm going to tell you this. If you had a fuse in this, if there was a fuse inside this, it didn't work.
No.
Yeah.
So if the fuse lived and this didn't, well, there's nothing that could have helped you.
I was going to say that microprocessor is not
That
processing
microprocessor is gefucked, right? It is done. It has experienced ein thermal event.
Yep.
I don't think there's any better way to say it.
Yep.
He says, in my defense, my Chargers were the Junior 800 model and did in fact have the lithium mode. Oh, he says, yeah, I've been doing lithium for years. They are now parts donors and gave their lives so that the bikes could live on. So I will be ordering new fuses, aka Optimate battery maintainers. Thank you, Brian. So,
that's crazy.
But How many people on this podcast have said that my garage got hit by lightning
Not me.
and my bikes didn't actually explode, that were plugged into wiring that was hit by lightning?
Right.
Because wiring is a tremendous conductor of lightning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how it works, right? I'd rather be in the beanbag chair when lightning hits the house than be like near the fuse panel.
Right.
Right? Or in the shower.
Laying
Right?
on a ball of copper wire.
Exactly.
Standing on the roof, screaming at God, holding a lightning rod.
Yeah. But look at that. I mean,
Typical
look at
Dave.
that computer chip. That
is impressive.
That's just exploded right in the middle.
But I like how it's a crater where you can actually see that it emanated from the base and just shot out.
I can almost hear the noise it made.
Yeah.
If you could hear anything after the lightning struck your house, because I've heard that's loud.
Also true.
Maybe you could just have them send you a new chip and you'll put it in.
It'd be worth a shot. I'd like to see if that worked.
I checked. His last name is not short enough to be the guy who installs those chips.
You you can do that. We had a special machine that you.
Oh, yeah.
Because it has to heat up everything all at once and pull it out.
You can use a heat gun. You can literally use a heat gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you could buy a $52 Optimate if you pay full retail. What's your time's worth? Yeah. I fucking love that picture, man. I just think that's the coolest thing.
Apparently, you weren't an only child in the winter in your dad's basement with nothing to do but play with computer
Okay,
chips.
children have no spendable currency whatsoever. That's great. You learned that skill way back when. But now I think your time's probably worth money.
Yeah, that's true.
That's exactly right.
Right?
Yeah. So I was in the garage replacing this chip on this board. So, but it's okay because the other guy was upstairs fucking my wife. So I had some free time.
As we've all learned, child labor means you can charge only $60 for this component.
Oh, man. For the whole thing. For everything that goes in it. Yeah. That level of technology when I was a kid, before child labor and, China and places, that would have been like a $400 charger. Even in $1980. Shit would have been expensive, man.
I would have built my own out of one of those Radio Shack kits.
The Radio Shack kit as opposed to the Heath kit.
The Heath kit
actually worked.
Charger, yeah.
The Radio Shack kit didn't.
Was it realistic?
The Radio Shack
was realistic, yeah.
Realistic. I had a realistic thing that went on my bicycle handlebars that played music out of one side. And if you had the yellow button on, if you hit it, it made a sound that sounded like what a horn sounds like if you ask a transistor radio to pretend it's a horn. And it was like an AM radio pointing this way, and it was like the world's worst horn pointing that way. But what it did do was it did transport 6 D-size batteries. Anywhere you wanted 6 dead D-size batteries to go. And if you hit the right bump on your...
It's ballast.
Yeah. It would kept you from doing a wheelie is what it did. But yeah, when you did land the bike and it would explode into pieces, the shit went everywhere and was super sharp. So I crashed my bicycle into that thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I ended up with a 6-inch cut on my chest because it was predated safety.
Oh, yeah.
So like the bracket stayed on the bike. The radio went away, but the 2 large jagged metal things that held it to the bicycle were still there. And I'm like, they won't sell kids ATVs now because they're afraid the kid's going to eat it and get lead poisoning.
Right.
Like you can't buy a kid's ATV because of laws that concern how much lead is in the ATV.
Tao will still send you one.
Of course they will. Yes. But like the only rule about, the safety of that thing is more concerned with eating it than actually crashing on it or
You've met a kid, right? They will eat it.
Yeah, that's true. That's 100% accurate.
I could ride it through the yard or I could eat it.
So in the news today, what did we get for homework today? What did we get for homework, guys?
Apparently, Coleman now has a new mini bike that has a CVT.
Yes.
Okay.
And I thought it was interesting because you sent that, and it has all the features and more speed than the $9,000 the Land electric bike.
You're kidding me.
No.
You're kidding me.
No, the top speed of that thing is like 65 miles an hour, and it has a range of like 45 miles.
You're fucking kidding me, really?
So for $850, you can just buy the Coleman mini bike that, yes, it's not electric, but now that thing will probably do 55 miles an hour, and that little tiny tank that comes on there will probably do 45 miles.
Oh, my God.
So for just $8,700 less.
Oh my fucking God! Look, I didn't really look into it. I saw it.
Right.
It showed up in my email 20 minutes before I sent the post out, and I was just like, oh, I know my idiot friends will like to chew on this, right? Because they're all queer for mini bikes, right? And when I sent that out, all I saw was it wasn't orange. Okay, seriously, that's the only thing I saw.
The BT200, which is what you have, which is what is the Big Tube 200?
You mean it stands for something? It stands for something.
BT is for big tube.
Right? Yeah, that's why it looks like somebody just like a kid drew a mini bike.
It's a big tube.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
It actually is Big Tube 200.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Now it may be bullshit, but it actually
So
is.
it's like
Everything I've ever seen
like
beat those tubes.
Like Cannondale bicycles had fat tubes.
If you look at the CT200, which is the old school red one that everybody bought before,
fucking
they're
shocked.
a really thin tube. But if you look at yours, it's the BT, the big tube.
I seriously had no idea it actually stood for something.
So now you've got the B200. What is the RB2? No, I think it's just the standard B200.
Okay.
Which is not the big tube.
Yeah, it is
'Cause
not
if you look
the
at it,
big
it's a
tube.
smaller tube, but they've upgraded.
And we're talking about the girth of the tubes themselves.
Correct. The
Okay.
diameter.
No, but
the
dude,
outer
yours looks like IKEA drew it. It's like it's got the swoops and everything. This again looks like a motorcycle frame.
Okay.
Yours looks like a piece of furniture that you ride.
I'm not joking when I tell you I learned something new today.
There we go.
I had no fucking
Hey, Phil,
idea
This is why we do
any of this shit was real.
And look, it has
know.
all hydraulic brakes now.
Now,
not
It
the
has front and rear
squeezers.
disc.
Front and rear
So
hydraulic
it
discs.
has an LED headlight.
LED headlight, all the things that you can get on the land for $9,500.
I mean, okay. I've got to clarify that orange U-Haul Tribute mini bike that I bought last year was one of my favorite things because I left it the fuck alone.
Yes.
You threatened to stab me if I got near it.
I had to chase him away from it 3 or 4 times. Because you know why?
And
the one he hopped up has never been ridden.
All I was going to do was put cushier grips on it. You're
But
like,
I
no,
still
get away.
like the fact that me and John were just sitting there enjoying life. And that woman came up and just was like, "Oh, you have to call that the U-Haul or whatever she said." Like it named itself. We were just like, "Yes, we do
You're
now."
absolutely correct.
And from the moment it arrived in its cardboard box from China, and I took it apart and did the 27-minute prep on it, right? I have loved it just for its sheer simplicity.
Oh yeah.
Just based on the idea of like, this is the minimalist idea of what you need to get around Mid-Ohio.
Don't lie. 8-year-old Phil is in there going,
Loving every fucking second of it.
And the biggest reason why mine doesn't go under its own power is because I decided to overcomplicate it like a small frame Vespa.
Well, all I know is I saw my
Keep your Peter beaters off of it.
Exactly. No kidding.
I saw my basically stock one. Like all we did was bent the metal thing that gets in the way of the speed restrictor.
Yeah.
We just bent that. I saw Oscar pull a 12 o'clock terrifying wheelie on that thing at band camp.
Yep.
Same with me. That thing was
Where I
scary.
was like, the only thing that saved him was the extraordinarily over-engineered milk crate I put on the back, right? Because that's the only engineering that went into the bike.
I have a picture of Oscar doing that.
It has brought me more joy from other people riding it than even me riding it.
Right.
But then when I saw this, you have my attention because it costs exactly $100 more than I paid for mine.
Right.
But like you said, Sleepy, it has a real disc brake on it.
Yep.
That can't be bad.
Front and back.
Front and rear.
Hydraulic.
Can I tell you about the front brake on the orange one?
Yeah, it kind of does something.
No,
You can't.
No.
I can't tell you about
can't,
it because it doesn't
have
exist.
Oh,
one.
you're right. It was just a yeah.
Correct.
So I can tell you nothing about the front brake on the orange one because it doesn't exist.
Right.
But they do have a kit you can put one on for $150.
Right.
Which boom. But
Okay.
then you still don't have a torque converter, and you still don't have a bright headlight.
Yep.
This is,
It's a good deal.
it might even fall into the category of a sore dick deal
Sure.
because you couldn't build it yourself for this cheap. And this one actually comes
Trust
with
me, you couldn't.
This one actually comes with something on the back of it that you could mount a milk crate to, as opposed to I had to re-engineer mine.
Right.
Right. So I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that this is a thing that we might have to make sure one of these enters are stable for Mid-Ohio next year. If nothing else, for comparative analysis.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't be a scientific podcast if we didn't test it.
What? No electric start?
This is, you know,
We haven't read that far down, dude.
This is kind of what we need Greg in now.
No, it does have a it does have a pull starter. I mean, I can see it has a pull starter.
Well, it's still the typical
Yeah.
Linhide Polster. Was it Linhide or whatever? Lon Shin Polster, whatever.
knows,
Whatever.
man?
It doesn't matter.
Well, take it off,
cares?
get your little Milwaukee screwdriver, and and start it that way.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see a problem with this.
No.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with this. And they're even being generous in saying it has a maximum load of 200 pounds. And I'm going to tell you,
That's a load.
blew that right out.
Pete's already called his brother, and they're doing a trip in March.
Oh, they've already scheduled it.
The Coleman BDR.
I'm in. Let's go.
It's the Coleman Discovery Route.
Yeah.
We're gonna have them airdropped into the top of Pikes Peak.
Yes.
I am on this. Let's go. Let's do it. Come on. Let's do it. Let's go.
We're gonna climb up there and then ride them down.
Let's go.
I'm not kidding. I did not think this was going to be a story-worthy toy, but honestly, the one from last year did bring me immense joy.
Oh, yeah.
Immense joy.
And that was literally a 5 minutes before the podcast thing where I went, hey, Phil, guess what?
We bought
guess
it.
what's on sale?
Yeah, we
And
bought
look at
it.
this. It's
while
available at your local Camping World.
It is.
Oh, yeah, I've learned they will ship it. It'll show up at my shop.
What is it? Tractor Supply sells them too,
I was going to
think,
say,
but
you
have to
might
order
want to
them
look.
online.
You might want to look and see, because Tractor Supply has some very. I don't know if it's this good though. I think
Right.
it's close, but I don't know.
Camping World is where you bought yours before.
I bought mine from Camping World, and it was delivered in less than 4 days.
Oh, yeah. No, we were putting together in a week.
Right. It was fucking shocking how quickly it showed up.
But is that the one that when you opened it and it had the small child handprints on the side of it?
It did? Yes. It did. Inside the box, which is really weird.
Well,
that, like,
who do you think packed it?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Their little hands can
There
get
was not a
everywhere.
handprint on the inside of that box bigger than like Donald Trump's gloves. It was pretty shocking. It's motorcycle. It's a motorcycle. I don't care.
Final assembly occurred on its way over here from China.
Probably true. They're like, why is the box so big? Why is the box so big? Because it's got to sleep too.
I keep finding Cheerios.
That's why I got 4 days. That's why I made it here in 4 days.
There's ramen noodle packets in the corner.
If it doesn't make it there in 4 days, you got losses. Yeah. That's fucking hilarious is what that is. So what do you guys think about bears? Blue Ridge Parkway.
I barely know anything about them.
I did live in New Orleans.
Did you guys not read the article?
in New Orleans for a long time, Phil.
I was going to say, did you not read the fucking article?
Yeah.
My favorite news story to hit regarding motorcycles in more than a minute because it involves bears.
Bear.
It involves fucking bears.
Phil, I don't know if you know better, but there are a lot of motorcycle stories that involve bears. Yeah.
Okay, well,
I'm
you know,
not
and
sure
I don't
you want to Google that.
I don't mean
really
I don't mean
Google
fuzzy
that.
big gay men. What I mean is
That's fair.
Right. Yeah. I am completely excited about the idea that that bears have decided to take over the motorcycle scene.
That is not the first bear I've seen on a Harley.
No, it's not. And honestly, not the chunkiest or
That's true.
the furriest.
That's a baby bear. That's a
very
baby bear,
svelte bear
dude.
for a motorcycle.
And if that baby bear's there hanging out with people, that means that mommy's out there
That's true.
sneaking
Now,
real close.
that is my absolute statement. I've spent a lot of time riding motorcycles. I spent a lot of time riding motorcycles out west. And what I can assure you is do not feed the wildlife. I know buffalo looks slow. They're not. Don't fucking feed the wildlife. Just leave them the fuck alone. If you're doing highway,
Timmy's so cute. Look at him. He's so cute. Timmy's nice, and
Right?
he's letting me pet him, and he's such a cool little guy.
Actually, as far as black bears go, that's not a very small black bear.
and that's another thing
That's
too.
that's almost a full-grown black bear.
I'm gonna say that bear's probably around 100 pounds and
Yeah.
could probably rip your fucking lungs out.
1 year old.
Right. Okay. So there you go, but John,
That's fair.
our bear expert, our
Yep.
resident bear expert.
I actually saw this article. I read it. And the guy said they took some bites out of his seat.
Yes, I love that. And so I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried to I don't know,
Bite a seat.
take a Harley Davidson seat off the motorcycle using tools to reupholster it or to change the foam padding in. It's not easy. And if Mr. Bear there took some bites out of the seat, that tells you a little bit about his bite capacity.
And smuggling picnic baskets.
It's exactly it. On the Going to the Sun Road on Highway 89, it's beautiful, but you have to stop occasionally as you're along this Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote precipice for the bears that will come out of the woods and come up to the cars where they have trained the tourists to give them food, snacks. And the problem is they come out of the woods and, idiot mommy and daddy from Wisconsin are like, that's adorable. Let's give them their sandwiches, Well, the bears know this. It doesn't take them long to figure out that the big metal boxes have food in them. And as long as these idiots stop and give them food, the bears will be encouraged to do it more. And eventually you run out of sandwiches or you run out of marshmallows or whatever it is you're giving them, and they decide that anything inside the car is fair game, including the squishy things that just gave them the sandwiches. Right?
They are full of jam.
Yeah. I would say if you're like this guy in this situation, my problem with this image is that he's not on the bike taking this picture from 100 feet away on his motorcycle, idling while the bear is fucking with somebody else. His motorcycle is parked, and he let the bear get between him and his motorcycle.
Yeah, but he's lucky.
He's lucky sevens. He's literally lucky sevens. North Carolina plate. If I believe in that rule of, in the world of wildlife, don't be stupid, right? And if you can make a lot of noise and be annoying and be a little bit scary, and the animal starts like fuck off and go somewhere else.
He's on a Harley. He could have made a fucking shit ton of noise.
Yes, he could have.
Stop at a light makes all the noise.
Those do look like stock pipes, though.
Why do you think the bear is interested in the Harley?
It's potatoes.
Because
it's all
bears
the potatoes.
love riding Harley.
Probably because there's food in the saddlebag.
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I think there's a 12-inch hoagie in the left saddlebag. I think that bear is zeroed in to something that is delicious. Because ride to eat to ride over there. Yeah.
Well, here's a unpopular opinion, but at the same time, there's another shot of this, and the bear's face is buried in the back seat, the passenger seat. Yeah, so they said that possibly that the passenger might have had a situation.
Whatever. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm just saying.
Go for the cheap joke, but
no, it was a post-on thing.
Yeah.
I'm not making a joke.
Pete, have you ever had any animals break into your camp?
Break into the camp, not so much, but I've encountered plenty of wildlife on the trail. And we ran into 2 bears last year when we were out in Washington State on the Washington BDR. We had to stop and lift our bikes over a fallen tree. And then 2 minutes after we went across the tree, here comes a big bear across the same trail. And we were like, holy shit. If he would have showed up when we were lifting the bikes over the trees, we'd have been... not able to outride him.
No.
Yeah, I've seen tons and tons of bears. When I went to Alaska, the first time I saw a bear, I about fell off the bike. I was so excited. By the end of the trip, I'd seen so many fucking bears. It was like seeing a squirrel.
My experience, yeah.
Yeah.
Though when we stopped in Washington before getting on the Alcan Highway, because when I went, it was very, very long ago, and the Alcan Highway was chip tar and gravel. And it's only somewhat recently been whole paved, right? But when I went, it was pretty rough. It was pretty evil for a very long distance. And this very gentle, this very cool guy that was at the BMW dealership that was helping us get our shit together and making fun of me for riding a Honda Interceptor to Alaska. And he's like, that's not going to work out well. But he gave me a lot of really good advice. But one of the best advice he gave me was he was like, remember, you can only pee on bridges. You're going to have to explain yourself. Yeah. I'm in the military. I've heard some shit, but you can only pee on bridges.
A little more info, please.
You better have a very good reason why I can only pee on bridges.
Yeah.
And he says, well, this is that time of the year where if you just pee where you need to pee, it's you, the bike, your buddies, and an entire forest full of animals that want to eat your stuff.
Yeah.
And you. And you're the most interesting thing they've heard all day. So they're going to come towards the sound. And they tend to gravitate towards the road anyway because there's things along the road that they can forage for that they like. Okay. Bridges. So you don't pee until you're in the middle of a bridge. So you get to the middle of the bridge and then you pee. Why? Because you can see them coming in either direction.
Yep.
I've told that to at least 200 people.
What happens if two bears appear at either end of the bridge?
You still have enough time to put your dick away and get on your motorcycle. And it's all about time. It's all about just giving yourself a little bit of an advantage. Right. Because I've seen golfers get taken by alligators.
Okay, let's get them.
near the water hazard, right? Because they get up on you real quick. Well, what you don't want to have is an animal that knows how to work camouflage in a camouflaged area as close as possible to you. So it turns out using a man-made object like a bridge gives you some lead time. Now, whilst peeing on said bridge, following the rules, I was like, man, that guy's crazy, but I'm not taking any chances. And I looked to my right, and there was a fucking bear coming up on the bridge.
Gotcha.
Seriously.
Right.
I never questioned that advice, not once ever.
So this is a tech tip.
Tech tip from your Uncle Phil.
From your Uncle Phil.
If you're out in the woods,
yep.
Always pee in a bridge.
Only Alcan.
No, I think this goes for anywhere, honestly.
Well, yeah, that's fair. I mean, this guy, if he'd have stopped to take a piss on a bridge instead of whatever,
he wouldn't have got his seat fucked up.
Exactly.
Right? He wouldn't have made CNN, or at least Lucky 7S wouldn't have made
It wouldn't
CNN.
have made the news either. Yeah, right.
That's true. That's exactly it.
Your Mustang seat would still be intact.
Here's another thing I learned about Alaska. You said bears are like seeing a squirrel. You know what else is the bald eagles?
Oh, yeah.
My whole life, I hadn't seen a bald eagle outside of a zoo my entire goddamn life until I got to Alaska. And then you realize that's where they keep the nation's stockpile of bald eagles.
It's the warehouse.
It's like seeing pigeons in the park, right? Yeah.
So I'm inside a truck stop, still technically on the Alcan, and they're not common. You know, it's not like, oh, you can take your pick between Exxon and BP. When you see one, you fucking stop, and they know it. And some of them are set up. They have a little thing in the back you can sleep in and pay some money and spend the night if you're whipped. But they usually are pretty good for food, and they're set up. And there's a sign above the door. I'm inside the place, and it says absolutely no food outside. Well, don't be an asshole. I got this ham, egg, and cheese sandwich that's as big as my fucking head. And it was about $20, because if you've been up there, you understand your money doesn't go very far. I get this thing, and it is delicious. But I'm on an adventure trip, one of the biggest, best adventure trips of my life. I'd never been on anything like this in my life. I want to go outside and look at the mountain. And it's that kind of misty weather that's just perfect. So I'm like, I'm going to take my giant sandwich, and I'm going to go outside and appreciate this beauty. And there's cool shit out there I want to look at, like, big off-road vehicles and shit.
Bears.
I get outside the door.
It's worse.
I get outside the door, and I make maybe 4 steps outside the door, and an eagle takes my fucking sandwich. Now, I'd never been that close to an eagle before, but their claws are fucking huge. And I'm lucky I still have 10 fingers, because it got the sandwich, and kind of my arms kind of went with it, because I was kind of hanging onto the sandwich for a second. And the eagle fucked off, but it was the equivalent of getting landed on by a helicopter.
Eagle took my sandwich playing the grog shop on Saturday.
So
Yeah.
I turned around in absolute shock because I had gotten strafed, like the wings hit my face and stuff. And it's a traumatic experience. I don't know if you've ever had a big bird on you, but it's fucking scary. And I turned around, I went back into the restaurant, and I'm standing there holding like wax paper.
Right.
And the woman behind the counter goes, "You're not getting another one."
Not without $20.
Right.
Which tells me that she's seen this happen a lot.
And you think she might have played the warning up so that you'd know.
She trained that eagle.
She told you? There's a sign that I love. And it's the seagulls don't work for us.
Right. Yeah.
If the seagull takes your food, you're fucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
The seagulls don't work for us. This is the
No,
exact
when I
scenario.
went outside of the restaurant, I looked, and now every dumpster had a fucking eagle on it.
Right.
Not painted on it, perched on it. I lost all of my appreciation for bald eagles and bears.
Yeah.
and shit like that in Alaska because the place is just full of them. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. Did you ever have an animal come into your camp when you're camped out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Actually, we were down on the Blue Ridge Parkway a couple years ago, and like a herd of elk just came right through the camp, like 50 of them or something.
What?
Just, like, they could like went. Well, we were like camped at a place called Mile High Park, Mile High Campground, and this herd of elk just marched right through the campground.
I wonder if those are the same ones that hang out. There's a field at the end of the Blue Ridge, like as you kind of come down toward. Remember, John? Those were all fucking elk, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one place where we saw them. While
There
we
had
were
to be
riding.
like 100 of them fucking things there, right? Like there's a lot.
100 might be a high number, but there were a lot.
Apparently that's a thing. So
Yeah.
It didn't take long for Google to completely corroborate his story. Also to the point of, well, this is a thing that just sort of happens. You might want to be ready for it. This is the first picture that came up.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it looked like.
I think Pete knows these guys.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
and so you're just camped up and the parade came through.
Yes.
God damn.
But see, I think they live down in this field because there's a sign when you get to the bottom of the parkway, kind of in this one area.
Yeah.
So you come down off the mountains and you're getting to the flats at the very bottom. There's like this beautiful like field and pasture off to the left,
Kind of like a meadow.
A meadow. Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah.
And that's where all these motherfuckers hang out. But there's a sign that say "Careful, whatever these things are."
Elk.
Elk. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot of them dudes, man.
Even on their poster for the place, as though, the warning sign wasn't enough, on their poster, there's a fucking several elk. So, like, when you
That's
look...
the place I was, Mile High Campground. That's what I just said.
That's what I Googled it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I Googled it for
Right.
us. Right, so we could see it. Yeah, so we could appreciate it. But I love the fact that on their fucking brochure, it literally has not one, not two, but 3 elk. Like it wasn't just an empty spot in the image. They needed to fill it up with something. No, apparently you can get... Yeah.
The story got better, though.
Jackson's March to the Sea with elk. Go ahead. Keep telling it, Pete.
It was Sherman's March to the Sea.
So, you're right. Thank you. Thanks. History's not my strong suit.
I can cut on the details.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So when we were there, we
The
rented
Germans
this little-
bombed Pearl Harbor.
It was called a cabin. It was more like a shack made out of like rough plywood or something, right? And it had a little porch on the front of it. Well, it just had bunks in there, and my brother and I are bunked up in this thing, and as soon as it gets dark, you can hear all these animals like scurrying. There's like mice scurrying across the plywood, and you could hear things under the platform. It must have been like a raccoon or a skunk or something. I mean, shit, the whole place is like moving with some kind of animals. But sometime in the night, I had to get up and take a piss. So the door was like sticking, and it was easy to get out of the cabin. I'm standing on the front porch of this cabin taking a piss, and when I go back in, I'm pulling on the door, and I'm trying to do it quietly so I don't wake up my brother. Well, then the door like releases suddenly, makes a lot of noise. My brother gets up out of his bunk in his tidy whities. He's like swinging and screaming because he'd been hearing these animals on there.
Oh, yeah.
And he thought I was like that's a bear coming through the front door.
He's absolutely, at this point...
I'm like, and I can see him trying to like focus. And he's like literally swinging and screaming. And I'm like, it's just me, dude, it's just me. He's like, holy fuck, I thought we were getting eaten by a bear,
Because you get primed. I mean, the more animals you hear,
Exactly.
the more primed you are about like, when is that 1/4-inch plywood between me and them not going to be enough anymore?
Right, and the thing is like at 11 when you lay down in a situation, you hear what you hear is like little mice and stuff.
Sure.
But then at 3 a.m., the same sounds sound like it's just giant. Like they the animals that you hear just keep getting bigger in your brain and bigger and bigger and scarier.
I just remember we
What are you putting
were
in
on a
your,
fly-in
your sauce?
fishing trip in Canada. And we were staying in a fisherman's shack, and it's basically plywood. The front door was a plexiglass screen door. And I woke up, and the guys who left had just shot a bear, and they had an old 303 British up on the wall, and they're like, "Well, if there's a bear, if it's coming into camp and it's being invasive, you can shoot it."
Right.
So I woke up sometime at night. I looked out the front door, and with the moonlight shining across the lake,
And
there
someone
was
shot
just
you.
a big bear standing up against the. And like when we came in, there were muddy bear paw prints all over the front door and all over the whole fucking cabin. And I'm like, I can't believe we're staying here.
Yeah, because you are completely outnumbered.
Yeah, and I'm like, Dad, bear.
It's one thing if the bear prints are down low.
Yeah.
And they're cute little Cub Scout bear prints. But if the bear prints are fucking 8 feet high.
Like, they've been in that cabin and raided the refrigerator, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, I'm sure they know how to get in.
So I think me
got the
yelling
key.
at my dad kind of scared it off, and he went out. He fired a round at it. He's like, I didn't hit it. I just kind of shot at it.
Yeah.
I didn't really try to hit it. And
No.
Just make it run away.
Right.
But then the whole week was just fucking like, oh, you're sitting there skinning fucking pike and stuff.
Right.
And there's just literally food
fish
for them
guts
laying
everywhere.
And
Right.
it just, you'd lay the fish gut, like they would just take off with the fish. And then there was a fucking dump. Then they're dumping everything right behind. I'm like, everything is wrong here.
It's literally a bear buffet.
Yeah.
I can tell you though, Pete, I have looked at this Mile High campground. I've looked at their brochure. This is not a deluxe amenities place.
No, it was cool though.
Was it cool?
Yeah.
Was it cool?
Very cool.
Yeah, that's good.
I'd go back if I was in the region.
Yeah, because it does look like it's a plywood masterpiece. Yeah, this is like a fourth-rate Deer Park. You know,
you can see one of the cabins in the background. See the
I was
green
going to say
thing
that.
back there?
That's the deluxe.
That's the deluxe one.
That's the manor house.
It really, yeah.
That's like when we go down there, man. We rough like it's this year. The hot tub like it almost didn't hit 104 degrees.
What?
It was
The
terrible.
fuck? On your North Carolina trip?
There were only 3 showers.
I know it was just terrible.
Oh man. Yeah, every page of this website has got a stabby elk on it.
Yeah, it does.
Because that's something I don't want to mess with. You know, an animal that carries that many knives. Yeah, that's not
He's
anywhere
got
I wanna
room
be.
for a whole group of riders up there.
He does. You know how many marshmallows he can cook? That's it.
Dude, if that dude jumped out on the road and you were coming down it with 5 of your buddies, all 5 of you would be stuck.
Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. Yeah, there is nothing I want less than to tangle with a big pointy animal, let alone at 45 miles an hour on a motorcycle. That just seems like bad fucking pot.
I want to see a picture of an elk with a Harley Davidson vest on. Like,
yeah. Or I just see like picture of these like ones on the Dragon where you see an elk come out and he's got like handlebars stuck in his antlers. That's just it. Bad experience we had. We were in Yosemite National Park, and we decided we'd be really cool and do some tent camping. And so we found a beautiful spot by a babbling brook, and it was just beautiful. It was gorgeous. And so we set the tent up.
a babbling brook full of salmon.
Yep.
Spawning.
We set up, and I mean, did the whole thing, you know, just comfort, deluxe, at least, what is that, like 1 mil of nylon between us and Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. And got out, and we're laid up in the bunk, and I do this trick where I bring the inflatable air mattress and I fill it up on the exhaust because it inflates it real fast. And so, you know,
Helps you sleep too.
does. You get a slow leak. Yeah. Sleep like a
carbon monoxide,
sleep like a
yeah.
baby.
You're gonna huff that shit in the middle of the night and go back to sleep.
Just take a couple of hits if you can. Find yourself restless. Just take a couple of rips on it. And so we're in there, and I mean, you know how it is.
Oh yeah.
It gets dark. You set up camp, but you're still not tired. You're nowhere near tired because, like, you just set up camp. So you have a beer or two. You do a thing. You might smoke a little something. And eventually you're like, yeah, it's time to go to bed. But you fall asleep, that deep sleep, and you're all comfy. And then all of a sudden I hear the whole, like, on the outside of the tent. And I'm like, the fuck is that? Are you getting up to go to the bathroom or something? What's going on? Like, oh shit. Oh, no. There's something outside. And then it's like, and you're like, oh, fuck, man. Fuck. And then that little tappy starts into the testing phase where the animal outside is testing the nylon. And they're just putting their big paws against it to see how firm it is. And to see if there's any delicious goodness bits inside, right? And they're just shaking it. And I'm like,
It's got that soft center.
fuck, right? So I'm like, well, I have no idea from this side of the nylon what's on that side of the nylon. So I just smacked the side of the tent as hard as I could and said, fuck off, as loud as I could, thinking if it was a human, they'd fuck off because they know what words mean. If it's an animal, I might scare them enough that they would learn what the word meant and fuck off, right? And I did that, and all I heard was a noise that I can best describe as a gruntle. And it was one of those noises I can't make because I don't have lungs that big. And it just kind of went, and I went, fuck. I picked a fight I can't win. Yeah. And I was
How do you
waiting.
Apologize to a bear.
I was waiting for the sounds of nylon and disembowelment.
Yeah. You turn around and pull your pants down.
Well, at that point,
go ahead, have a bite.
And when I said fuck off and hit the side of the tent, she woke up, right? And when she woke up, she wasn't like, oh, I was having the best dream, whatever. No, she woke up in a fucking full-on state of panic, and she went like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, there's an animal outside the tent.
Just stay.
And I wasn't trying to be quiet because we didn't need to be quiet anymore.
Yeah, that time had passed.
There's an animal outside the tent. And then in my smartest moment, I went, shh, as though the noises she was making was going to reveal to the animal outside that there was more than one tasty morsel inside the tree, which would have been good for us because I think the idea of having more people inside would have been more intimidating to it. So we got real quiet after that. Like, we didn't breathe for like 7 or 8 minutes. And eventually we could hear it fucking off, and it fucked off. When the sun came up and we went outside of the tent,
Wait.
Yeah.
How do you go back to sleep after that?
We didn't.
Okay.
We just did that thing where you just sit there and you're just ever vigilant and you're just kind of shaking.
Gotcha.
But when the sun came up, we went out and there were paw prints way bigger than mine all around the tent. Everywhere around the tent. And this was California. So these were not, these were like mountain lion prints that we were seeing. These were big feline prints outside the tent. You do know that I own like 18 guns. I didn't have even a big knife. I had a Gerber tool. That was it. Like the fucking, Paul Puma out there is going to hear me snicking open a Gerber tool and be like, I better fuck off. He's got pliers.
Right.
He could take my eyelashes off or something.
Is it illegal to have a weapon in the park?
Well, that brings me to the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about. If you're doing motorcycle camping, how do you feel about taking a gun with you? Like, just not saying that you're going to be out there busting pop cans in the middle of the night or anything.
No, but protection.
But purely when I did the Alcan Highway, the truckers were required to have a gun in the cab of their vehicle that was at least, I think it was at least 357 Magnum or higher, that they were required to have the gun because of animals, right? Now, I don't know if that rule still exists. I have no idea. But I do know that it was a rule back then. Now, I am a person that says, if I were to make that trip again, if I were to do that adventure and I was going to be Yosemite the side of a goddamn mountain again, yeah, I'm taking a gun.
But how do you do it on the Alaskan one?
Yeah.
How do you get it through Canada and then back to
the
States?
Remember, in Canada, long guns are legal. So there are guns in Canada that are legal. Right. Hunting guns and shit are legal in Canada.
You're not going to take people on a bike are going to have a strap.
You're not going to take Dad's, Colt 1911 on your motorcycle trip through Canada. Right.
I packed by a Daisy Red Rider and a scabbard.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so
it's that line. Everybody and their mother has guns.
Bear spray.
Now there you go.
Right. I'd say any kind of noisemaker, really. It doesn't even have to be a firearm. Anything that can, like a firecracker, would probably scare them off just a second.
Right. Yeah, because I'm going to be able to light a fucking M80 when the bear's clawing at my tent.
You have some party poppers.
Party shoot a fire.
If there's any one thing,
champagne party popper and a bear.
I have to say it. If there's any one thing bears love, it's poppers.
It's huzzah. I'd be better off just throwing fucking mushrooms at him and being like, "Get weird, bear. Get weird, man."
Wasn't that in a Disney movie?
They made a movie about that. Yeah.
The bear ate fucking a bunch of mushrooms.
The cocaine
flare gun's a really good idea.
The bears also love cocaine.
I think a flare gun's actually a really good idea. Yeah, because I've shot the shit out of some flare guns, and you do not want to be on the receiving end of one.
I was going to say, a bear's fur would catch on fire.
No, it doesn't even matter. I'm going to tell you, I have shot flare guns at shit trying to light shit on fire. Yeah. It's not as effective as you would think.
Oh, all right.
But it hits way harder than you'd think. So, like, if it's me to a bear away, flare guns are slow to reload, but they're impactful. Like, they're dramatic.
Yeah, and it's probably bright and the flash.
It's
noise.
dramatic.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, man. Every time I've ever fired, like, an Olin flare gun, I've been shocked at, like, these are in boats in the proximity of children. You know, because they're dynamic. When they go, they go. It's not like, it's not like a Starburst 4th of July firework thing where you can like see it going up. And you're like, oh, that's cute. That's 12 gauge. Flares are like right fucking now, man. Yeah. I wouldn't want to get hit from one at anything less than 75 feet. Wow. 75 feet would be my point where it'd be like, I'd probably take one from 75 feet, but less than that, no, I'd fuck right off.
Well, I mean, dude, a Roman candle at 5 feet hurts. So you add,
fuck yeah, baby.
Yeah, so like you get to that size or something, it's got to feel pretty interesting.
But a flare gun's got to be easier than lighting the fuse on a Roman candle, because I've watched John chase me around with a lighter for hours trying to fucking get a Roman candle lit. We've had to stick them in the fire before and come out in a hurry. Yeah, but so for animal defense, if we think about that, we're on a motorcycle and we need to think about like.
What about a taser? I mean, if it gets real close quarters.
Yeah, he said a herd of goddamn elk came through his campsite.
I have this one taser flashlight.
Just leave.
The sound of it enough would like my cat just goes. Wah! He's gone. He's like,
now tell us without saying the words that you've tased that cat before.
No, never.
Man, not Oliver. He's a dude.
I would like to tase people, but not
the cat.
Not the cat.
No cats.
Yeah.
Here's the thing too that you started to hit on this before. Like you're going through some of these national parks too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of animals there.
Yes.
They're like refuges for animals.
That's what we built them for.
So Ma and Pa Kettle that are on a fucking scenic cruise, they stop to look at the animal, feed them some sandwiches, whatever. You're 3 cars behind them, and you're on a motorcycle, completely exposed.
Totally exposed.
And it could be an elk, it could be a moose, it could be a bear, it could be anything, and you're like him in traffic.
I saw a buffalo in Colorado
there you go.
fuck up a minivan.
We just saw buffalo when we were in South Dakota last month, and they were 50 yards away from us, man. I was in gear with my hand on the throttle. I was like, if he comes over here, I'm scooting down the road.
Yes, I am.
But don't they run like 30 or 40 miles an hour? So
yeah, they do. Yeah. They go 0 to 35 in one buffalo. Like, that's it. You got no time to... You got to go, man. You got to go. I was on the motorcycle, and I saw a buffalo, because they were taking pictures and, holding the kid up in front of the buffalo and all this stuff. And when the buffalo kind of said, fuck off to them, they got the message that they should retreat to the minivan. And so they retreated to the minivan, and the buffalo was like, no, I'm not done educating you yet. So the buffalo wandered towards their minivan, and they were like, oh, well, now we're in the safety of our Dodge Caravan. Which the buffalo is like, that might as well be. That's like putting a piranha in a fucking Ziploc bag.
He's like, oh, I didn't know they brought sardines.
Yeah. And I watched that buffalo fuck every corner of that goddamn Dodge Caravan up. And just like Pete says, I'm on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So when he goes down the row and I'm 5th or 6th in line, or all of his other buffalo friends come over and decide that it's going to take out the whole line time, what the fuck? Yeah.
People are dumb, man.
People are dumb. Yeah, don't fuck with the nature, because it'll fuck you right back. Yeah.
One more animal story now. When Chris and I were in Morocco this spring, there was like donkeys, dogs, cats, all kinds of shit on the road. And we remarked, like, the animals here are smart. Like, they stay off the road. I mean, they're just running wild, but it's like the dogs were, like, smart enough not to, like, go on the road because they just get squished.
It's the 400th generation of dog.
Right.
Well, we'd been there for, what was it, Chris, 5-6 days. We'd seen 0 roadkill. I said, have you noticed there's, like, no roadkill here at all? Maybe, like, the locals come out and scoop it up.
That's what I was thinking.
But it wasn't 10 minutes after we said that, we go around the corner, and there's a fucking camel laying in the road with his like neck snapped off, and there's a roadkill camel. That was the only, it was the only roadkill we'd seen the whole time.
And it wasn't the cigarettes that got him. So
No, and it's another great band name. God damn it, Roadkill Camel. And what was yours?
Camel.
So do you have any idea why the camel was dead? I mean,
Because it got hit by a car.
it got hit by a car. Okay, all right, yeah.
Its neck was broken rather spectacularly.
Yeah.
But
It was looking backwards.
yeah, it was
It was a push me, pull you.
yeah, something
Right.
like that. But
Wow.
it was so weird that we just commented.
And it was huge, too.
It was big. When
Imagine being the guy that hit that sumbitch.
Yes, right.
Did you, Kromke, you recently hit a deer, didn't you? In your car?
Yeah, with my car, I hit 2.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Wait a second.
He's an overachiever.
Yeah, that was,
How'd you hit 2 deer with 1 car? Did you drive into a flock of them?
Hey,
yeah,
hey.
I had to get off the freeway. I'm driving to Wisconsin like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I got to get off the freeway because they're fixing a bridge, and I'm going up US 20 in Western Ohio. And
you were in a deer park.
Right. I looked down to turn the brights on because they turned themselves off. I looked up. There's 4 deer right across the road. So two went right.
Yeah.
2 tried to go back.
Yeah.
I was going to hit the one square.
Yeah.
So I swerved over and just kind of got glancing blows on 2 of them. No damage to the car.
Amazing. Amazing. I mean, that's insane.
You know, I know somebody who has hit a deer and a bear cub on his motorcycle and not crashed.
Is it
Tim-
Rastetter?
Tim Rastetter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Did anybody have the last year's AMA magazine? Because I think he's on the editorial
really?
picture right on like one of the first pages.
really?
He was on that European tour they did this summer.
Yeah.
I didn't hit a deer on my Vespa, but many, many years ago, there's a place in Mentor called the Headlands. And the Headlands is this nature preserve. It's like kind of swamplands. It's adjacent to, Lake Erie. But there was a big-ass fire in there many, many years ago. So in the early 90s, a big-ass fire. And all the wildlife that was in this amazing, nature preserve, this swampland, all the wildlife decided to fuck off like it was the Bambi movie, right? Because the forest was on fire. And so I was off the clock. I had done my shift. I was off duty. And I thought, what better to drive into a fire than a 1977 Vespa? Right?
You're always thinking.
But I was like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I wanted to go on the less populated road and drive into the, the thing to kind of like see this, a marsh on fire, right? And so I'm cruising along the road to get to it. And I'm noticing there's like, all these cute animals that are leaving the forest, which is to my left, going to the place that isn't on fire to my right, right? And, we used to call that, they were unassing the AO, right? And so the animals started getting a little bigger. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it's pretty fucking dark out in the neighborhood of like 1 a.m. And all I saw was a deer's dick very close to me. And he had jumped from the left side of the road to the right side of the road, not touching the road in between, because deer can fly. And this deer flew right in front of me.
Was it a reindeer?
His nose was red. It sleigh.
You sure that was his nose?
This fucking deer.
Red Rocket.
I did not get to know anything about the deer other than I just saw the part that went right in front of my face.
The red.
Which was his dick.
Which was his dick.
Red Rocket, yeah.
And I looked to the right, and all I saw was the flag, the white flag of victory. Like the deer just, we have white-tailed deer here, and that's how they do. And so I could feel the animal's presence on my face because I wasn't wearing a helmet or anything. And I was just like, I just got this glancing.
Did you get engaged or what?
Fucking insane, man.
The presents. That's what they're calling it.
He had a gift.
And henceforth, it's been known as the Headlands.
It wasn't. it was a deer flying to the air.
Headlands. Yes. But I didn't get.
Welcome back, Pete.
It didn't knock me. It didn't knock me off the bike. I didn't fall off the bike, but I did stop to be like, did that really
his number?
fucking just happen? Like it fucked me up. Yeah.
Hey, where are you being next week?
I ducked one time to miss a fledermaus. I was on a motorcycle and I was like, I saw this bat coming at me, and I was like, duck. So I ducked.
Was it a duck or a bat?
It was a bat, not a duck.
No, I ducked. It was a bat.
Duck for a duck, not for a
But
bat.
the girl behind me didn't get the message.
Oh.
And she got the bat square in the chest.
Oh.
And so the bat hit her square in the chest. And again, talk your way out of that situation. So it hit her, and I already knew that I had to stop the motorcycle. There was no question at this point I was going to stop the motorcycle. But I got down low as just the way you would, right? Because you know it's something coming at you real fast. I got down. I didn't even think to warn her. She barely held onto the bike, and me. We got the side of the road, and she had a red mark across the top of her chest into her neck where it had hit her. And she was wearing a helmet. Well, I was wearing a helmet because the state we were in had helmet law. And she was like, "What the fuck was that?" I said, "It was a bat." And she goes, "You knew what it was?"
That's when you say, "Didn't you hear me? I said duck."
You left the saddest part of your deer story out.
Yeah?
Because that was 3 weeks later when you had to go and break up with it.
Oh, just a tip. Just a tip.
I was going with Dan with the 2 deer, 1 car thing.
2 deer, 1 car.
So I have a topic I would like to broach.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to have
2 deer, 1
everybody
cup?
either to make a list in honor of Motorcycles and Misfits, or we could bet
Oh, boy.
how long it is before you think our dear friend Liza realizes the mistake she made by selling the greatest motorcycle ever made, the Africa Twin, to buy a Nikon. Or Niken.
A Niken.
So she's going to get tired of that thing. I'm taking a bet. I give it 6 months. Anybody want to vet, or should we? What are we doing?
How long did it take her to get tired of the sidecar on the Benelli?
No, the side that was a shit show.
terrible.
That was a shit show, and anybody who was there knows
I
it was a shit show.
know.
So she was absolutely justified in her fucking dragging those guys up, throwing them under the bus. Here's the thing about the Niken. I have ridden a Niken.
That was quite a segue, I gotta say there, Sleep.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Fucking deer talk to this motorcycle.
A 3-wheeled motorcycle.
I figured we had been off the
I've
motorcycle
recently-
topic long enough at that point.
We've talked about bears. We've talked about 2 cars, 1 deer. We've talked about Phil's
Phil's relationships with deer
penis
Yeah.
and with bats.
Thanks
We've
for the
also had a
recap. We're
very
good.
long conversation about bears and motorcycles and cocaine.
The deer.
It is only logical.
The Niken.
The Niken.
The Niken is the MP3 of
From now on,
motorcycles.
it's going to be called the deer.
The Niken is the MP3 of motorcycles. Everything that the MP3 is to scooters, the Niken is to motorcycles. Which is, if you own one, you're going to tell everybody about how great it is. But if you don't own it, and you're not financially obliged to tell people lies like that, you're going to call it for what it is. And it's the answer to the question nobody ever asked. That's what it is.
Right.
I think that Liza buying a Niken is a great thing because forever she will be in a campfire of 1. Because I think you could go to all of AMA Vintage Days and be like, get on a bullhorn and be like, okay, we're going to have an impromptu Niken owners meeting. And every Niken owner is going to get a free pizza and a handy. You just have to bring your Niken.
If you were looking,
And it'll be one guy jerking off.
If you were looking for, well, yeah, I imagine people that have Nikens are probably going to jerk off about the fact that they have the bike.
Yes. Have
But
you
the
ever?
rest-
Have you ever met anybody who owned a Modus?
Yes,
They won't shut up about
No,
it.
I'm.
I bet you they are right now.
JT Nesbitt was the guy that designed the motorcycle that went around the Modus V, whatever the fuck it was.
the CrossFit
and
of
JT's a
motorcycles.
really nice
Yeah.
guy, but you're right. It's kind of a jerk fest.
Exactly. So I think a Niken is about the same thing.
And yeah, it's like an MP3 rally.
It's just going to be that thing.
I just
But,
think that
hey, better her than me.
I just think the nicheness of it's going to wear off, and she's going to miss the reliability,
Well,
rideability, and
think of all the-
functionality of the African
I
Twin.
disagree. I think it's a Yamaha. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be reliable.
It's like an R6 or an R1.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, it'll be
I
reliable.
think it's going to be reliable.
Yeah.
I do know that it has 15-inch front wheels, and they're not cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also know
And you
that
got to do 2 at a time.
every MP3 we sold got crashed.
That's true, too.
So, hey man, I don't work at a Yamaha dealership. I'm not Yamaha's best Niken salesman.
Yeah.
I think if we talk to them, they'd be able to tell us how many of those got crashed. But I know that every single MP3 that I've ever crashed or I've ever worked on or I've ever sold has all been crashed.
I was going to say, that everyone you've ever crashed.
I've crashed two of them. I've crashed two of them.
Right.
So I've crashed two of them.
I have watched the former owner of Vespa of New Orleans crash with Ruthie the duck lady on the back.
I crashed one in the snow because they don't do snow.
No, I can see
And
that.
I crashed another one on wet surfaces, like seeing how grippy it was. And I low-sided the bitch, and it was not as grippy. I took a scooter that had two wheels through the exact same situation, and it didn't fall down, but the three-wheeler did. So anyway, I think that you're right. I think that the over and under on that is going to be like...
Well, let me ask you this.
But she buys weird shit from China all the time anyway.
It's
So
fine.
it's
You know,
like,
but this is an investment. This is not a
is
$5
not cheap.
thing, right?
This is a big money.
Let me ask you
lends
this.
itself to more story, though.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Are the roads, so like, in Ohio,
Yeah.
because we have all these bloated trucks
Yeah.
and the shitty roads,
Yeah.
you get a lot of that lane dipping.
roll spit and dipping,
Yeah, so
right.
like you get almost
Yeah.
around the thing.
Yeah.
How does that bike handle that? Or how does an MP3 handle that?
Not good.
Okay.
Not good. Not good.
New Orleans didn't have roads.
When
I
you
had my
have
MP3.
when you have one front wheel on your motorcycle, you know what it's going to do.
You know where it is, too.
You pick the spot, you put the wheel there, and it does exactly what you think it's going to do. Now, if you have two front wheels and they're 18 inches apart, well, now you got a lot more real estate you got to be in control of. And if you find the good line for your right tire, is it the good line for your left tire, and is it the good line for your back tire? You got three different lines that you got to think about on that motorcycle. Oh, but it's okay because if the line is bad on the left wheel, the right wheel will make up for it. Nope, not really. That's not really what it does.
Right.
Yeah. So if you experience a sudden loss of traction in your left front wheel, there's not enough traction left over in the right front wheel to keep your ass up. It's been our experience, my personal experience.
And there's never enough traction on the rear wheel to keep it from spinning.
Or wearing out in 2,600 miles.
Exactly.
So that's the way that is. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Sleepy. That's going to be an interesting one. I'm so thrilled that I don't have to buy that bike, that she can buy it. She can buy that bike for all of us.
So those of you that want to know how the Nicken works out, our partner.
I didn't have to buy a sidecar for a TNT 135.
Right.
Didn't have to do that.
It's funny because I
Check
thought
in
you
with our
did.
friends.
I didn't
over-
have to buy a Chinese Amigo fake Trail 90
Yeah.
because she's just out there being the fucking test subject for all of us. Yeah. Yeah, she's like the first guy in line for vaccines that haven't been tested yet. It's cool. Okay, KTM is actually buying MV Agusta.
Oh, really?
So I don't know why my little fucking peanut brain last year at the AIM Expo in Vegas didn't put this together when I went into the KTM booth and somebody had slid a couple of MV Agustas in there. Because MV Agustas are sexy motorcycles.
I
can't stop looking at them.
This is the homework you were looking at earlier when I brought up the Coleman.
Okay, but what's the what's the lineage there? Because Husqvarna owned MV Agusta owned Husqvarna. Or which way did it go?
So KTM.
Because my Husqvarna was actually an MV Agusta on the title.
Right.
Now, hold on, though.
Oh, it gets better.
Okay.
Okay. In that particular situation, Sleepy,
Yeah.
the problem with that is your Husqvarna said MV Agusta on the title because the distributor at the time, prior to Husqvarna being a part of BMW,
Yeah.
and prior to Husqvarna becoming part of KTM, Husqvarna was being distributed in the United States by the guys that were licensed to distribute MV Agusta. Do you want to hear what's really weird? Is MV Agusta was being distributed by Harley Davidson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was a period of time for about 18 months or so where MV Agustas were distributed in the United States by Harley Davidson, and there was a threat being made that Harley Davidson dealers were going to have to stock MV Agustas. And they have these things called shareholders, and they didn't think that was a good idea. An example would be how quickly Livewire was no longer a part of Harley Davidson because the shareholders are reluctant to lose all their fucking money.
And if there's any one thing that Harley Davidson exists for, it's the shareholders. Because they sure as fuck don't exist for motorcycles.
That's why they do it, right? Shareholders run everything. So your particular Husqvarna happened to be distributed in the United States It wasn't. Husqvarna didn't have a dealer network set up. They weren't their own NHTSA approved manufacturer.
Yeah, it's going back to earlier. Have you ever seen a gas dealer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually know a bunch of them.
They tend to be Husqvarna, KTM.
They carry the whole weird deck.
Yeah.
They carry the whole HVC cycles in Nebraska. Got them all. But here's what's weird is because KTM is actually an extraordinarily well dialed in the United States motorcycle manufacturer. They're, if I told you right now, I would have everyone at this table guess how many models of KTM, a dealer who's a KTM dealer, not saying how many bikes they have to have in the showroom. No, I'm saying how many distinctly different models of bikes KTM sells.
And if I ever see another newer KTM again in my life, I will freaking stab the owner and burn that freaking bike.
I totally disagree. I 100% disagree.
I have a, what is it, 250 or 450 EXC? I cannot remember.
think
It's
they
got to
are
be 25,
magnificent.
right?
Yeah. So when they were courting us to be a dealer, it was 34.
Yeah,
Okay,
no.
yeah, it's up there. I knew that. Oh, I forgot about the kids' bikes too.
Four
The 40s and
distinctly-
60s. Yeah.
And KTM doesn't really have a cheap bike unless it's one of their Indian-made bikes that would be like a 390 or something like that, right?
Still
The little
not
Dukes.
like $5.
Exactly.
Right. And it's like if you took a BMW F800 and put it on steroids when it comes to the electrics on it. You cannot, unless you have the computer, you're not figuring it out.
Well, they make probably the world's greatest adventure touring motorcycle.
And they make the world's worst electronics.
I still know guys that have 180,000 miles on them. So they're apparently okay for somebody.
Yeah.
And they hold value, man. 2006 990 still sell for $5,000 or $6,000.
There are motors in my life that I was like, this is a really, really good motorcycle. When I rode the KTM 1190, I saw God. It was so perfect.
Well, they still use proper Rotax motors. It's not like the Rotax Chinese motors.
It's
like
brilliant.
the proper Rotax motors.
Fucking brilliant.
And the only time they have problems is when the cranks fail.
Yeah. And I don't think riding that motorcycle, it felt like it was a 550 with its weight. But when I demanded power, I've never ridden a motorcycle in my life that was so eager to give me more power than I could ever possibly handle. And yet when a corner came up at me, I went through the corner and I went, well, shit, I could have done that twice as fast because that was completely not stressful at all on a full fucking adventure bike with all the garbage on it.
Yeah, the 1290 is the only bike I've ever ridden that scared me.
The 1290, the one 1290 that I rode was, again, thank God for traction control.
Yeah.
Because that thing, whereas other motorcycles, when I crank them hard, the example is the goddamn Triumph 1200. Put it in sport mode, turn off the traction control. I can crank it as hard as I fucking want to crank it. The front wheel will want to come up on me. There's no doubt about that. But it's not terrifying. The 1290, I will not put that bike in no traction control mode. There is no way in God's green earth I'm going to make that bike be completely unfucking regulated. So, yay. I think that MV Agusta and KTM is probably one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Because KTM is exotic and MV Agusta is exotic.
Well, you know what's funny? Like if you would have told me like, hey, this has been a secret for 25 years, but KTM actually makes MV Agusta, I'd be, okay. You know what I mean? Like if they see it, like that's how natural it seems.
So the thing I found earlier is that KTM has owned 20% of MV Agusta for a very long time.
I was shocked at how long they've been a part owner of that.
Yeah. And the remarkable part on my book is the fact that MV Agusta still kind of exists because the F4i was a couple of years ago, and then there's another one, I can't remember which. And I kind of looked at it and went, I had an opportunity to buy one ridiculously, stupidly cheap. And went, you know what? Nah. But they're really cool. It's like the Benelli Superbikes from a couple of years ago. They have the 4 exhausts across the back.
There's nothing
really
sexier than
exotic
an MV Agusta. It's just...
It is. It's like owning a cut rate Ferrari.
It's just amazing. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I do think in their weird way, I think that the KTM 1290 Super Adventure is kind of the same thing where it's just so fucking careful. It's so good. I know Pete's a big BMW guy. I know you love your your R bikes. But this to me is fucking
Well, the first bike I
big
ever
power.
Oh,
I appreciate the KTM's for sure.
wait, Pete, your mic's off.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. I was
for
pulling
it.
down because you guys were like, moving and stuff.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
good,
okay.
Go ahead.
Go for it, Pete.
I certainly appreciate the KTM's. I've never owned one. I did go to their demo days this year. It was at the headquarters out in Amherst. And rode a couple. I rode the 11 or the 1290. I like the 890 too. That 890 is a very nice package.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more high strung than the BMWs. They're a little bit more purposeful, a little bit more dirt oriented. But great bikes, but I don't really foresee owning one. I love the connection to Northeast Ohio with
Me too.
KTM, John Penton. I mean, it's like
I love that. Yeah, that we can feel like we own that because we've ridden on those roads, we've ridden on those trails where the original KTM's were tested and fettled out and everything else. And, being able to meet and hang out and talk with the Pentons is great. So there's that KTM spirit that exists in Ohio, especially for people like us. Very, very cool stuff. And now everyone used to kind of tease when I had my Duke. Everybody was like, oh, yeah, man, the maintenance on that is worse than a Ducati. Well, no, all the
No.
KTMs now are 15,000 mile service intervals.
Well, no, even back in the day,
Yeah.
they weren't that bad. It's a Rotax motor.
Yep. I was
Literally
very,
a shim and bucket. It's
very
not a
impressed.
Big deal. It's
Yeah,
but
very,
it's
very
all
impressed
back
with that.
down to their electronics because I worked on the what is an 250 EXCE or something like that. I can't even remember. And they because you're talking about the total number of models that KTM has.
Yeah.
The problem is they're dirt bikes. It's not the adventure bike. It's not the
I don't think
Duke,
the problems are
anything
dirt bikes.
else.
They keep winning trophies.
No.
Right?
It's the fact that they have 23 different models
Yeah, they do.
per engine
They have
number.
They have
And it's whether or not it has the lights. It's whether or not it has electric start. It's whether or not it has 2-stroke, 4-stroke, all this different stuff.
They compete in every single class of road racing or dirt racing, every possible discipline. And then they also have a version of it that has turn signals and headlights on it. You can ride on the street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as a guy who has to dig deep into one of these, because I have dug as deep as you can possibly get into one of these things. And I went, you know what? I'm out.
Liza's electric problem on her Duke.
Yeah.
Emma was just like, burn it. Fucking burn it.
Yeah, no.
There's a problem in a wire somewhere, and it's a small wire.
And these that's the problem is they have like 18 gauge
They're
wires.
really tiny
on.
wires.
They're
I can tell you that.
tiny.
I can absolutely tell you that. I had to do a little bit of work on my Duke, and when I started taking body panels off and finding the wiring, I was like, we're supposed to have one very thick ground wire, and this has 3 really tiny ground wires. And I guess the idea of that is like, oh, look, it's built like a computer, and there's like this loom and this loom and this loom and this loom. And so you just unplug this 12-pin connector and unplug this 12-pin connector and replace the part in between. It's so easy.
Yeah.
Any idiot could do it.
With the BMW,
I couldn't do it.
With the BMW, you have the GS 911. You plug it in, it tells you what's wrong.
Right. They have that for KTM.
With the
too, right?
KTM, you kind of look at it and go, oh.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing vehicle that you want to own for the first 7 years it's on planet Earth. And I think maybe after the 7th year, you got a KTM, asshole. You can afford it. Buy a new motorcycle because maybe you shouldn't be riding a bike you can't afford to get rid of every 7 years. I'll bet you it hangs together probably pretty good for the first 7 years, and then after that,
I don't know, man. Those 990s are still out there rocking and rolling.
It fits well. And that's the thing. The sport bikes, because I've only experienced 1 or 2 sport bikes on the KTM side.
Yeah.
The dirt bikes I've run into a lot more frequently because I live down in Cajun country. And it might be easier to fix the sport bike version.
I don't care. That
LC8
LC8 motor does nothing wrong. I'm convinced if you put that LC8 motor in a they make a funny looking motor.
Fine looking, I say fine looking.
Oh yeah, they do make a fine looking motor. That is a great looking motor, and it's a great feeling motor.
If you ride a bike,
Rotax makes an amazing B-twin.
I was gonna say, if you ride a bike where like the whole engine looks like Shrek, you can't really be dogging on the fucking motor.
Oh, the Moo Commandment.
Oh, that's so. But honestly, I think that MV Agusta and KTM together is fucking perfect. I'm totally great with all that.
KTM Husqvarna, MV Agusta under the same umbrella.
And if they can,
gas is in there now.
Gas.
Yeah.
If you can somehow fit if you can cram Bimota into this, it would be the perfect company.
you know what though? Just put the LC8 motor in all the Bimotas.
And it would actually fix the Bimota.
And I'd be fine. I'd be great because Bimota did all the Suzuki motors. They did all the Ducati motors.
Yep.
Any Bimotor that started with an S was a Suzuki motor. Any Bimotor that started with a D was a Ducati motor, right? You do that with the LC8 motor, I'm in.
You fix all the problems.
I'm in. I don't care.
Fix it all.
I'm in. Just give me a wiring harness that literally is color coded.
Oh no, they can't do that. It would all be like 14 gauge wire.
I don't care as long as it's all color coded. As long as it looks like the London Underground map.
Right.
So if there's a display on my heads-up display that looks like the London Underground map, and when fire comes out of the bike, it points to the part of the London Underground map where the fire came out. And I can just replace that part. It'll tell you what part number it is and where to order it and
That's
what part of Austria is made in.
One of the shittiest things I've seen with some modern cars is that the wiring harness, it's all black wires. Because they're like, fuck you, you're not supposed to fix it.
They don't want you to fix that.
For you, bro.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to fix Dodges anyway. Wait, Stellantis.
Oh, man.
Man, I saved so much money on that. I think I'm at $38,000 now.
The last thing I wanted to talk about that is actually motorcycle related is that Zero, the company that I sell motorcycles for, just got a...
Bought by.
Oh, yeah, hold on. We're not saying that.
on.
Hold on. They want to make 100% sure nobody says those words. Because Zero does have a lot of money. Zero's not one of those places where you can say, wave $60 million at them, and they're going to be like, oh, I guess I won't be needing my panties, right? Zero has a lot of money. The board for Zero controls a lot of money. I'm going to guess there's $1 billion there somewhere.
Somebody's
billion
got blowing money somewhere.
So, but
They have an island.
They're either blowing money or blowing something.
So Hero gave Zero $60 million, and it wasn't enough to win. And for where I'm from, $60 million is enough to win, right?
Enough to get your attention.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Even Sam Bankman-Fried will pay attention to that.
would pay attention to $60 million, right? Yes, topical. But this is one of those things. You guys might remember in the podcast historically where I have said Zero is sitting back, doing what Zero does, building motorcycles, staying relevant, making sure the light of the media is shining on them, and they're building a good product and people are riding it. And they're just waiting until Honda decides, all right, boys, we've made the decision. We're going to go electric. And then Zero's standing by waiting, hey, put me in, coach, I'm ready, right? And I thought it was going to be Honda. And I honestly thought it was going to be, or Yamaha. Because those are the two companies that I thought were most likely to be like, all right, we've waited for these fucking amateurs to dick around with their electric bullshit. And now they've made all the expensive mistakes. Now we're just going to go in and buy a company that's doing it already. Harley-Davidson, Mission Motorcycles, the Livewire. Harley didn't engineer that motorcycle. They bought a motorcycle that was already built and being sold.
and still fucked it up. It's Harley. It's what they do. They fuck it up.
And the guy that they bought it from,
Made
who
a
they
mil-
wrote a big giant check to,
Made millions.
lost his fucking ass.
Really?
Because Harley buled him.
Oh.
Because Harley did what Harley does exactly every single time.
Fucks
Right?
everything up and fucks everybody on the way.
Isn't that weird that if a company's big enough that their history doesn't matter, the next person's like, oh, I did it. I've got it this time.
I'm going to say this. Chris Smith is a drywall hanger. That's what he does. He owns a company that hangs drywall.
Dude, I've got some
fucking
walls
good
for you.
at it,
Okay.
too.
Yeah, right.
And he's been hanging drywall. His company's been hanging drywall for 25 years, and he's got 36 guys on his staff, and he's got 18 trucks, and he gets contracts from here, there, and everywhere. The Veterans Administration just hired him to do a whole bunch of drywall. You know, CSU just hired him to do a whole bunch, and he does the work, and he does it on time, and he's made a great living for his family hanging drywall. Now, tomorrow he gets a job that's the biggest contract he's ever seen. He's going to buy some extra trucks and put some extra guys on for this job. But then he looks at the bottom of the thing and realizes, I'm going to tell you,
This is
so ugly.
This is
Oh,
now.
I
Like,
got the mic out of his ass before he
But you know
farted.
what?
it's now that kind of show.
Now I know why you don't fuck with bears.
Yeah.
It's it. But
Don't kink shame.
It's like give you a little lap dance on the way.
that was a pretty good lap dance. But it was,
I think Pete got a dick in his face.
I think you did. Yeah, I think
that
you
was
did.
like
a little
the
deer
deer.
dick. Yeah.
I gave him an addictomy.
Oh my.
Dear.
But imagine if you got that contract.
It looked like a
This
dick,
big, beautiful
just
contract
smaller.
that you're going to make a lot of money on. And at the bottom, you see that it's at 186 Trump Plaza.
Uh-oh.
Okay, right? Okay. You just went from being like, hey, honey, we're good, to being like,
We ain't getting paid.
right? Okay. Imagine if you were a guy that made seats, motorcycle seats, and your job was just making motorcycle seats. Like you were like somebody like Corbin or Sargents or somebody like that. And Harley Davidson sent you an opportunity to make seats for Harley Davidson. Based on the way that we've all read stories about Harley Davidson kind of fucking over people they work with, I don't know if I'd take that job.
Yeah.
Because everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of the people that we've seen that start working with Harley Davidson and have that as a feather in their cap end up with checks they can't cash.
But it seems like they allow Harley to kind of take them over instead of like selling pieces or selling like, okay, we'll give you this much of a deal, but we're going to remain our own entity.
So we're about to talk about a thing called intellectual property law.
Right.
And I think that in the Hero Zero combination, one of the biggest parts of this thing is not that Hero is spending $60 million to buy 6,000 zero electric motorcycles. That's not it at all. I think Hero is spending $60 million to get the intellectual property of zero electric motorcycles.
Software.
Everything.
Yeah.
The battery.
That seems
from the
so
back
low
end.
for what it is. Right? Like, doesn't that seem like in today's business world where, you know, a fucking an intangible social media site sells for $50 billion
Yep.
or million or whatever the fuck
Yeah,
it
but that
was.
guy was an idiot.
Yeah, but that besides the point, it's still
We've
that,
seen his truck. It sucks.
They want the firmware.
I'm going to suggest that Hero, who does have an electric scooter, right, just spent $60 million to be able to jump from their one electric scooter into something that would be equivalent to a 500cc middleweight electric motorcycle.
But isn't Hero huge?
Gigantic.
Yes.
So what would stop them from just taking over?
I used to say that Hero is bigger than Honda, and I did some research today and discovered that Honda is actually bigger than Hero now.
but the fact that it's competing is pretty impressive.
When Hero makes these bikes, well, what name are they going to put on them?
This is an excellent point.
Can they put Zero or can they put Hero?
Well,
What O?
Or if you have Vanilla Ice, you can go from 0 to a Hero.
I was going to say you can go from 0 to Hero because that's exactly what they did.
Like I told Phil earlier, all you gotta do is turn the Z sideways.
Turn the Z sideways and it becomes a Hero. I'm actually thinking that what they're going to do, because they're predominantly focused on the Asian market. And you know what they don't give a shit about in the Asian market is a $23,000 motorcycle.
Right.
True.
That doesn't sell well in the Asian market. The reason that Hero leapfrogged Honda for a while, and that for about 14 years, Hero is bigger than Honda, which is shocking. It's because of the 125 to 180cc motorcycle market. And it's because Honda contracted Hero to build their motorcycles for them. And
They didn't
so,
want to bother with the smaller stuff, right?
so there are many companies that Hero has agreed, hey, I know that last year you broke your balls to build 100,000 of these 180cc or 125cc motorcycles. You do understand that we do that in about a month. So if you'd like to come over here, sell us your intellectual property, and we build your motorcycles on one of our assembly lines that we can simply shift a product over and slide yours in.
We'll run it through our replicators.
Exactly.
And you worked your ass off to build 125,000 of those last year. We're going to do 250,000 in the first 6 months. Well, that's a sordid deal, right? We know that if you're Honda or you're Kawasaki or you're Kinetic or you're one of these companies, well, shit, do you mean I could sell twice as many of these bikes and get into a market I didn't necessarily own before because of letting Hero build my shit? And Hero, it turns out, is like one of those factories in Star Wars that just builds all the droids.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't matter whose side the droids are fighting on. They just build all the goddamn droids, right? So what I see Zero doing is I see Zero taking a $60 million check. But I see Hero being able to enter an entirely different segment of the market where they see the money's about to be spent. Now, go ahead.
Don't you think $60 million would have paid for a lot of development of a proprietary project?
You'd have to ask Hero.
They're just trying to skip right to the...
Yeah, they don't have...
That's what I'm saying.
They
Like-
don't have to build a rocket to go to the moon. They can just buy the fucking
I'm
rocket.
just saying, in today's
Or they can buy
age,
space on the rocket.
60 million does not seem like a lot
Right.
when you're talking about something like Zero, which that's just crazy.
The
right?
smaller number was the number that was between QJ and Harley Davidson. So we know what impact that had. And we know that in less than 1 year, the story went from being these Harley Davidson motorcycles are being built in China and will never, ever, 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 ever leave China, we promise. And in less than a year, that turned into, we're only going to let the ones in the United States that are being used in the motorcycle training program. And that went to soon to be arriving in the United States, the Harley Davidson 500s.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. So in less than 1 year, the story went from no,
Harley Davidson's going to bankrupt them. Somehow they're going to do it.
and they'll
And
end up
being American heroes.
and they'll end up owing Harley money.
Right.
Somehow.
Right. Exactly. Right. So when I look at that, when I see all of that blustering that Harley Davidson did about how this motorcycle that they were putting a sticker on or changing the shape of the gas tank, that was a Chinese, it was a Chinese manufactured Italian motorcycle, right? That they were putting a Harley Davidson sticker on. Like, take the Benelli sticker off, put the Harley Davidson sticker on. It's an existing product we can already buy right now.
Right.
We're putting a Harley sticker on it and changing the shape of the seat in the gas tank. Nobody will ever notice that. But I promise all of you, this product is never leaving China. And in less than a year, they're already running ad slicks for your 500cc Harley Davidson.
That's probably one of the few
flat
Harleys
tracker,
that
street
actually
tracker.
ride because it looks pretty
It does
good.
look pretty
man.
fucking
Like,
good.
So in 5
Yeah.
years, in less than 5 years, I guarantee you they're just going to call it the Aramaki.
Right. They could go back all the way back to their roots, right? They could do an Aramaki.
I mean, if they own Benelli, they might as well own Aramaki.
What I would see happening, though, because of this relationship with Hero, would be more inclined to be, you can go down to your KTM dealer and you can buy a KTM that's made in Austria for $23,000, or you can buy a KTM that's made in India for $7,000 or $6,000 or $4,000. Actually, I think they're down to about $44.99, right? So in one building, in the KTM dealership, you can buy a $23,000 Austrian made that says, KTM, but you can also buy a KTM that is still a KTM, but it's made in India, right? And it's still a KTM. You get to wear a KTM jacket, right? What I'm considering is that in a very short period of time, we're going to be seeing at a Zero dealership a $20,000 Zero, and maybe the thing that we were all asking for 10 years ago, which is a $4,000 Zero. And maybe it can't go 88 miles per hour, and maybe it doesn't have a 100-mile range. Because if it's built for the Indian market or the Asian market, it doesn't have to.
Right. They don't have roads.
And if it has hot swappable batteries and everything else, all the better, right? That's something that I think Zero saw that as being a very, very good thing to add to their list of motorcycles, was something that's in the $5,000 to $6,000 price point. Because what we know when you talk about the Sondors Metacycle, when you talk about the Land thing or whatever, all these things have in common is if they make it past the vaporware state, which very few of them do, the next state, which is having NHTSA approval and being DOT legal and having a title that you can put a license plate on and ride on the street, seems to be unapproachable for any electric motorcycle under $10,000. The only DOT legal, I can buy it and I can legally put it on the road, has been over $10K unless we're talking about like a Vespa, Electrica, or a Piaggio, like a little scooter thing. But a real motorcycle, find me a motorcycle that's street legal, road legal, titleable for under 10K.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there a difference in the I don't know if you call it an appeal process, but like the application process between the scooter that can go 70 and a motorcycle? So how did they get like the new scooter DOT approved? Like, is it the same kind of like it's the same thing, right?
No, I think you bring up an excellent point, because we all rode those bikes, and those bikes were DOT approved and HTSA approved and everything legal. And I think that has to do with the manufacturers bringing them in is willing to spend the money to go through the processes. And I also think that the profit margin that you and I are not aware of.
Right.
Remember that when we talk about an electric motor, it has two parts, an inner rotor and an outer rotor, and that's the whole motor.
Yep.
So I'm going to bet you that the reason companies like Elon Musk can drop the price of a vehicle so much, and that Harley Davidson with their new Del Mar could drop the price of the vehicle so much, and when they did the Livewire, they dropped the price of the vehicle so much, is I'm willing to bet you that there is a ridiculously huge profit margin in electric vehicles.
Right.
And that's why every manufacturer, with Ford with their Lightning and Ford with their Mustang Mach-E and all these vehicles, that the reason a lot of these automobile companies, I think, want to go to electric so hard is because there's so much profit margin in them. And it wouldn't surprise me at all to find out if one of the reasons all the motor vehicle that motor right there's got a lot of motherfucking parts in it.
I was just, as you were saying that, I was just thinking
Well,
that
you
like
can-
the
Well, it's not labor intensive either. It's all robot built.
Yes.
An electric motor. You know what I mean? Like they
it's
can
not
cut
just
back on
that. So going back to Elon,
Yeah.
the original concept of the Tesla was to build a roller skate. Mm-hmm. You can put any fucking
Skateboard
body
platform.
you want on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Skateboard platform.
And the
Always-
idea, because
yeah.
you're dealing with an electric motor, a motor controller.
The body can be anything you want it to be.
And a battery.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're looking, because you're looking at the, what is it, the LC8?
Yeah, the LC8.
Yeah. You're looking at so many individual forged components, all of which
the
any one of
tolerance
those
has to be
could
checked.
fail.
Everything.
That's
Yeah,
the
there's
thing.
so much.
If me and you guys, if we all sat down here today and Zero sent us over a Zero electric motor, right, a Z-Force motor, we could take it apart and we could put it back together with absolutely no special tools very easily on this table right here. I promise you that. If we had this LC8 motor sitting here in front of us right now, and they said, okay, boys, take it apart and put it back together again, I'm actually going to tell you, I've taken apart my share of motors. You can't take that apart with normal hand tools. You're going to have some factory-specific tools that you're going to need to take it apart. Plus, if I lay the parts out on that motor, I'm going to need the entire of this basement floor.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Zero, I got basically four parts to lay that motor out.
The literal entire, because we've experienced this week, is the entire point of this is everything is modular. You take it out, you put the replacement in, you go.
How long,
And
Tom, in real world hours, how long did it take you to remove the entire fuel system and the entire power system, battery, the fuel system and the power system, the motor, in a cutting edge, absolute bleeding edge electric vehicle in our shop? Go ahead.
Once I figured out that I wasn't going to shock the piss out of myself, because literally the first.
I didn't ask you that.
Right.
I just said how long.
It could have taken me. I probably did in about 6 to 8. It probably could. I probably could have done it in 4, and I think the book time on was about 3.
Okay.
And
so your first one you've ever done.
Yeah. And it
literally going step by step in the book.
It literally is, because that motor
6 hours.
Exactly.
Now I'm going to bring you a fucking 1290cc motorcycle, and we're going to take that out of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to put a new one of those in it.
Am I doing
it? Ain't gonna be.
Yeah, because you're
6
talking
hours.
about throttle body, you're talking about the fuel injection lines, you're talking about the electrics, you're talking about all the different components in that thing.
When I see
the
automotive manufacturers,
the Zero plug, the plug and play, because it was a couple of rack of bolts around the bottom pan, 4 or 6 bolts that actually hold the thing into the body.
Right.
And then a couple of plugs.
Right.
It is out. It is in. As much shit as everybody loves to give about electric motorcycles, these things are so simple.
They suck.
this is And what terrifies me is anytime something is so easy.
Yeah.
And when we have a company or we have a country like China who's willing to build us component. Look, I know the Zero electric motorcycle's got an American flag on the back of it. I know that. I've been to the factory. I've watched them being built. But I didn't watch the battery controllers being built because they're built in Asia.
Yeah.
China. I didn't watch the batteries being built because they're built in China. I saw these vehicles being assembled. I saw these vehicles, components being assembled in America, giving Americans jobs, and that's great. But when we get to that, if you ever feel, if you're John McElfresh and you feel like the world is pushing me involuntarily towards getting an electric vehicle, be advised that's because Ford, Chevy, GM, Honda, BMW, they know that it's more profitable for them if you have an electric vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I am not buying an electric vehicle.
Not a whole lot of people are.
I would.
I hate outweighs with the actual practicality of it. And for all the talk and everything, and it makes you feel good, people don't actually want to buy them.
The only reason people don't want to buy these things, and I'll lay it out.
I guarantee you there's way more than only one reason.
The biggest reason why we don't want to buy it. Okay.
But tell me what you think the only reason is.
So number two is...
Okay, you're already on to the second reason.
Recharge,
you said there was only going to be one.
Well, number one, recharge rate sucks. I don't care who you are. You're not going to stick around a freaking gas pump for 25 minutes to recharge your Tesla. Oh, gosh, no. No, you're not going to. You hate it. You hate it. But number one,
correct. I hate it.
First and foremost is we are so ass backwards in this fucking country. We're one step away from banging rocks together to make fucking heat. We're not going to invest in infrastructure in the United States of America in order to do something like inductive charging on road.
Right.
That's which the Koreans already have. The Koreans have inductive charging in the fucking street. The Dutch have it for their fucking bicycles. The United States, oh God, we've got to burn fucking coal in our cars because we're assholes. Period.
Hoorah.
Hoorah. So I might as well go ahead and get fucking, what is it, the gasification? I might as well get gasification on my fucking motorcycle.
I've been talking about that for years.
That's John's fantasy right now.
Up my tree.
John's fucking fantasy, man.
Wood-burning motorcycles is my dream.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
I don't do, personally, because I don't have to. I live a mile from the shop. I drive to the shop. I turn around, I drive home. I might stop at the Aldi's, which is a block out of my way.
Okay.
So if I owned an electric vehicle, I literally would never have to worry about it because I would get on the thing, drive the thing. Because my buddy, I think I've gone a month without putting gas in my buddy, and tomorrow I might have to do it tomorrow.
You're actually kind of the target electric consumer.
Exactly.
You're kind of the target electric consumer.
My element doesn't even come off the
high idle circuit,
the high idle circuit before I get to the shop.
I think that's the thing, though, is like an electric car like that is great for a city type situation where you're not relying on like superchargers. You're just plugging it in overnight, driving to work, coming home, and
the people that are the biggest opponents to this are people that live out in fucking God's country in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Like me, like I can't have it. Like what would I do?
You can't go to work.
You can't.
Bagel picked me up at the San Jose airport. Bagel left Santa Cruz with, I'm assuming, all the electricity his Fiat could carry. Right? Mm-hmm. Like electricity just dripping out of it, right? Bagel picked me up at the San Jose airport. Hey, Bagel, how you doing? Wow, you picked me up at the San Jose airport in an electric car, not a hybrid, an electric Fiat. I was like, check out the balls on Bagel, because I know you got to go over a hill.
Yeah.
This, and it's in California, where we all know in California you can go from driving on a road to parking on a road forever. In about 1 second. And we're driving over the road and we're going through these twisty hills. It's a beautiful ride. If you've ever been drive from the San Jose airport to Santa Cruz, it's gorgeous. But we're not sparing the electrons on the freeway. Bagel's caning it. And I'm like, and I'm watching the percentages on the dashboard, and I have range anxiety for him because I would have to help push this bitch, right? Because I'm in the passenger seat doesn't mean I'm not allowed to push.
Right.
So I'm watching the percentages get lower and lower and lower and lower. And I'm seeing traffic, and Bagel's definitely dodging the traffic and driving truly like an ace on weed, right? And we have to do some ducking and diving to get into Santa Cruz. But Bagel is just like, inertia is his key. Like, he is not stopping. There's a reason he's not stopping, because stopping means you have to go again, and that's costly.
Yep.
We pulled up in front of Liza's house at 1%. Bagel.
It seems like he's done that before, maybe.
Probably, yes.
I've known Bagel long enough to tell you he's kind of a smart person. He's careful.
Yeah.
He doesn't make too many wild and crazy decisions.
Yeah.
If he thought that he could make it from Liza's house to the airport, back to Liza's house, on every drop of electricity that car had, it's because he's done it before.
Yeah.
But that was a big dick move.
That's like him and Hofford. Hofford, up when we were up in his thing, would be like, you're going to run out of gas 6 miles before my house. And I'm like, what? Sure enough, I ran out of gas 6 miles before his fucking
People
house.
know shit.
That's the thing, is if you have it down, you have it down.
Admit-
He's the
People
kind of
know
guy
shit.
that will have the calculator out going, well, I can make it.
I can't live that way.
And-
so for me, I need to have the comfort
You know, the tech,
of the glowing BP sign
yeah, the
and
tech,
the glowing accents.
and this is why I've always
Yeah.
been a proponent of hybrid, because I believe
Yeah.
in the one cylinder diesel motor driving.
Well, that's what I just saw. So
The
I
generator
I just
to
saw
drive
it.
Like I've said before, I don't understand why somebody doesn't have. You put a receiver hitch on the back of your fucking electric vehicle. You can just put a little Honda generator back there.
They do. They're called range extenders.
Yeah, but check this out. So
Okay,
I mean,
So what's
it
the big
exists.
deal?
U-Haul will rent them out west.
They do.
They do.
have you seen the semis now that they have the electric semis? But what it is a giant.
It's a diesel
turbo-
train. It's a
yeah,
train.
Yeah. Exactly that.
Our expert.
It's a train that's not on the rails.
Our semi expert won't be here till tomorrow. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in writing.
Gas-driven DC generator.
Yeah. Well, and the reason that thing about Hero popped up for me personally is because I know in my shop what it's like trying to sell something where the entry level commodity is $12,000.
Right.
Right. So, hey, I'm interested in getting an electric motorcycle. Fantastic. I've got Energica from Italy. I've got Zero from here in America. And they start at around $12,000. And everybody gets that same fucking look on their face like, whoa, 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 whoa. I do live in Cleveland. So what I'm looking for is about $4,000 worth of electric motorcycle experience so I can feel what it's like to ride one and kind of make that commitment. Because Hoffert, when he got his Zero electric motorcycle, the second he got it, he put it into a very heavy duty use cycle. Now, not many of my customers do that. The number of people I have that I sold a Zero electric motorcycle to 6 years ago, 7 years ago, that don't have 1,000 miles on that bike yet is shocking. No pun intended. It's disturbing how many people have destroyed the batteries in their electric motorcycles because of not riding them and not charging them, right? And then call me, or more importantly, haven't called me to reveal that they've damaged or destroyed their electricity containment unit, right? Because they're not using it, because it's sat for more than 6 months.
Because they haven't even used it.
Hoffert's kid has an electric scooter in his backyard
I had the conversation with him.
that he doesn't even know is bricked.
Now he does. Does he?
Steve does. I told Steve.
And I had the talk with Steve too, and I told Steve, I'm like, Steve, you're going to have to go there. You're going to have to grab that bike. You're going to have to sacrifice a chicken, say your Hail Marys, plug that son of a bitch into the wall, and hope it takes a charge. But I'm telling you, as the guy that sells them, it won't. And then you're going to have to get on the phone to the manufacturer and intimidate them to the point where they send you new batteries. Because they're going to say, you done fucked up and you didn't read the manual. And they're right. You done fucked up and you didn't read the manual.
RTFM.
But yeah, it is RTFM. But there's a big thing about like, how is not doing something a sin that's going to cost me thousands and thousands of dollars?
Didn't you say that they updated the manual after? So like if you got the bike
Different
originally.
brand. So now hold on. We got to be very careful right now because now we're deviating from manufacturers.
Yeah.
Oh.
In one particular manufacturer, the NIU, the electric scooters, they have a printed paper book.
Yes.
And the printed paper book says if you're not going to use your bike for 30 days, plug that fucker in.
But isn't that
That's plain English.
But that's what Steve's son has, right?
Yes.
That's what I was okay.
And that's not what he did.
Right.
Right. He left the bike for more than 30 days and did not plug it in. So he is now fighting a printed owner's manual that specifically said if you're not going to ride it for 30 days, you should plug it in. Mm-hmm. Okay? So he's kind of fucked on that one. He's going to have to fall back on great consumer support, right? Which I don't know if you're going to get it. The Zero, on the other hand, when it originally came out, you got your owner's manual in the form of a thumb drive. Mm-hmm. And you thought, this is my owner's manual because I have an owner's manual in the dashboard of my Buick that came with the car in year of our Lord 2002. Mm-hmm. And that manual is still accurate. But that's not the way electric motorcycles work. There's updates. So you took your thumb drive and you took it over to Kinko's and you had them print that son of a bitch out. Right? Look at me, I'm winning. What they didn't tell you at Kinko's was your real owner's manual is an app on your phone. And we will change the app on the phone every single time we figure out something we did wrong in the first manual, and we give you a firmware update, or your dealer does, to make your bike better than it was when you bought it because you're still a beta tester. You just don't know that because you paid full price. Mm-hmm. Okay? And your bike has changed 7, 8, 9, 18 times versions in the year that you've owned it. But you still have that thumb drive that you printed out at Kinko's, and it says to store the bike in the wintertime, simply walk away from it, and after 30 days, it'll go into hibernation mode.
Bet Coleman's looking better and better.
Hey, John, where did the dead dinosaurs go? In the little gas tank. Yeah, that's great. I think the starter's broken. Why? Is the rope broken? Did you break the string? So that's that point. Like, that's the thing about electric vehicles is you're only as good as the firmware updates. And I have been in this industry long enough to tell you that there have been firmware updates that came out that I had all my customers going like, ooh, this is the new firmware update that's going to give me a 10% better range. On a motorcycle you haven't put 80 miles on in 3 years. So whatever, but they get super excited. They install the firmware and then their motorcycle is bricked and it can't ride them home or something, right? And then they're calling up and they're like, this is your fault. And I'm like, I didn't design the firmware that bricked your shit.
Right.
They didn't even call me. They didn't ask for my opinion about that. Well, it turns out we need to go backwards to the old firmware. You can't. And I will tell you that about motor vehicles. If you think like the solution is going to be, I'm going to grab the knob on the side of my ECU and turn it back to the oldest firmware setting, there isn't one.
Dude, all that's like that. For my video editing software, we use Premiere.
Yeah.
And I installed a new version of it and forgot to check, don't like let it update automatically, right?
Right.
Updated automatically, had a beta version.
Yep.
I opened a project now that I've been working on for 2 months. It has like 1 million fucking cuts on it.
Right.
And when I opened it, it wasn't working right in
Correct.
the new version.
Right.
So I said, no problem. My other computer's on the old version.
Yep.
So I go and I open that thing on the thing. It won't open anymore because it updated the program file to the new version, which is not compatible with the old version. Holy fuck.
I've had to learn a concept that bothers me at my core is when somebody says, should I install the new firmware? I say two things. One, I'm not qualified to answer that. 2, is the old firmware working?
Right. And
Did you get to work this morning? Did you get home yesterday? Then don't install it.
Or do you have a long period of time where an inactive motorcycle will not be an issue?
Will not be an issue for you.
You guys are really selling these electric
like your
vehicles.
phone though? Won't it force push it?
So now we get into a problem where many of the motorcycles right now,
You don't even have a choice.
you don't have a choice. Because many of the motorcycles and cars right now have a cellular device built into them, a cellular chip that initially they were making you pay for, which was pretty funny. But then they discovered making you pay for it gave you some false idea that you had some control in the situation, when really the idea of you paying for the cellular portion of it was just gravy for them. Because really the whole idea behind the cellular is that they can give to the overlords back in China or wherever, right, wherever the chip was made or where the board was made, every single place that Steve Hoffert went on his motorcycle, where he lives, where he charges, how much he charges, how much electricity he's using. There's so much data, and data in today's world is money. Facebook is free because you're the product, right? You've heard that before. Google, Gmail is free because you're the product.
Oh, everything.
It's the things about you that they're selling to other marketing, that they're using as marketing data, that is the product. And the more you use it, the more rich your product is. So a motorcycle that tells them where you are, when you are, what time you go to work, what time you come home, how you drive on the freeway and everything else is just a massive data collection machine that, under the guise of giving you the most current update, is really just calling back to the home office and giving them all of your data. And I mean, it's parked in your garage and it's on your Wi-Fi and your cellular data. Who knows what else it's listening to, right? I mean, I'm sure your television hears you say some weird shit. So who knows where the Internet of Things has taken that. But what I do know is the ones that used to charge for the cellular data connectivity, like, we're going to give you 2 years for free, and after that you have to pay for it. All of those are now like, oh, no, it's just baked in. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Because as John's saying, no, it doesn't ask you permission before it downloads an update.
Check this out. So, with this whole update thing and the stuff going back to China, the U.S. government a year and a half ago banned DJI drones from being involved with anything to do with the government.
Defense
so no more
program.
water, any kind of inspections now or anything. Well, that's all great, except for that for the last 12 years, everybody's been doing fucking inspections,
of course,
for the government and everywhere else.
Yes.
So, they know. It's like, oh, look how neat this is. I can just put it'll fly right around the whole missile silo.
Sure will.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure as shit.
Oh, look, there's an update. I'm going to go ahead and just let it.
Of course.
Just sending all that information.
Of course it is. Absolutely. Yeah. We don't need to put a chip in your neck if you have a phone in your pocket.
Right.
Right? That's been the...
How can we get these people to carry around a tracking system? They'll never go for it. Put cats on
I was going to say, have you heard of emojis?
Yeah, right?
We're going to make their kids carry them. We're going to indoctrinate them even younger. Yeah. So tonight's Tinfoil Hat podcast. Anybody else got anything else that's motorcycle related or even...
The most recent acquisition. Kings Island.
Yeah.
Acquired Cedar Fair.
No, Cedar Fair acquired Kings Island. It's 51% Cedar Fair, 49% Six Flags.
All right.
They published it, yeah. And nobody's changing anything. So that's the deal is that...
That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, but it's 51% Cedar Fair, 49% Six Flags. Yeah, even though Six Flags has numerically far more properties, Cedar Fair is financially worth more money. Yeah, but they were both looking at the idea of not being able to pay the bills next year. So they decided to team up. It's pretty interesting.
That way they can not pay both bills.
No, I think that way...
You get rid of... There's redundancy, so instead of having... You only have one headquarters. And you save a lot.
You save a lot on your
C-suite. One accounts receivable, one accounts payable, one human resources.
And
you lose all that upper management from one.
Oh, and I can get a gold pass that's good at 29 parks in 3 different countries, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
I like amusement parks. Amusement parks are lots of fun. That's it.
Like, do you find them amusing?
I do. I find them to be just quite a nice place to be.
They took out all the lap belts. You had to hold on
again.
On a roller coaster.
It makes it a lot more challenging, and you lose a few too. So it's probably good for society as a whole.
You just need to start going to state fairs.
The smart ones hang on. You've got to ride rickety or shit. You just got to ride more rickety shit.
That kind of describes our entire philosophy in life.
Anybody sitting at this table, except Tom, probably remembers when Six Flags bought Jogga Lake.
Yes.
And it fell off a cliff. Like, Jogga Lake went from being like, hey, we're taking the family Jogga Lake, it's going to be great, to being like, oh, wait, it's Six Flags Paramount, whatever the fuck it turned into.
Hey, we're going to go, because they still called it Jogga Lake, but at that point, they're like, hey, we're going to Jogga Lake. And you're like, when did you start doing meth?
The park got scary, shitty fast.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Rotor Man left.
Rotor left, right?
No, Rotor Man. Remember Rotor Man?
Oh, yeah, Rotor
the
Man.
Dude that rode it every day.
He just rode the rotor every single day for years. When I knew that my days of going to Jogga Lake were over, is I was in the wave pool doing the wave pool thing. This is lots of fun. And I saw a kid that was probably 3, take his diaper off that was full.
Oh, yeah.
And throw it into he was in the water, and he took the diaper off that was full of poo, and he threw it further away from him in the water, and he squatted down and took a shit.
Yeah, that happens.
In the wave pool, which, according to Hoyle, you have to change all the water in the pool now.
Yeah.
Right? Just, you have to at least make it look like you're changing all the water in the pool now. At least you have to close the ride for at least the day.
1.8
One baby Ruth bar later.
Yeah.
It's okay, it's just baby Ruth. So, I don't know what everybody's freaking out for. But, so I saw that, and I saw the mom, right, who really didn't give a fuck, right? She had her own problems. And I jacked her up. I was like, hey, your fucking kid just ripped his diaper off, and he's taking a shit in the wave pool right now. Mm-hmm. And I got thrown out of the park. Mm-hmm. And I went, okay. Yeah. They no longer want me here. They no longer want my money, and I never went back.
I no longer want to be here.
I just said, this is it. This is not the happiest place on earth. That's it.
If somebody shits in your pool,
Yeah.
turn it off. Immediately. Gravity is your friend. We use gravity all the time.
This might be the best tech tip of the podcast ever.
Tips you dial in for.
The shit will sink to the bottom where you will want to suck it up somehow and remove it.
Step one.
And then shock the shit out of it.
Turn off your pool.
Turn off your
Turn
pool.
off your filter.
If there's a poo, turn
Do
off
not
your
try
pool.
to send it into the filter. You could run it through the filter, but put it on waste so it doesn't go through the filter. It just goes through the pump and straight out onto the ground. And you could vacuum it off the bottom.
Okay.
And you could
All
get
right.
you have a chance.
What if somebody mushed it into the vent?
Well, that's why you want to turn off.
Hold on. I mean, right now we're just talking about a diaper and a free range turd.
Okay.
Okay.
This has gone off the rails.
No, but people have pools.
No, these are tech tips.
I mean, people have pools and people have hot tubs.
Right.
And I was there when somebody shit in a hot tub once.
That's not uncommon. You're warm. You're comfortable.
When do you go to the hot? Okay,
Sleepy, how do you
second
know?
tech tip: don't go to the hot tub with Sleepy. It's not uncommon. Yeah, it's fucking uncommon. I'm 54 years old. I saw one guy shit in one hot tub one time.
Boy, that was a hell of a rally, too.
It was a hell of a rally. Cocoa Beach will never be the
If
same.
somebody pulls a shark maneuver and it's diarrhea and they just leave a stream out behind them, you're kind of fucked. But even
Yeah.
then, chlorine makes everything stick together and stick to the filter, so you could just run it, shock the shit out of it, and run it.
Really?
Chlorine sterilizes everything,
Yeah.
so that'll kill the E. coli,
Right.
and then it will get filtered out, and there would be
Head
no
back to
more
the
solids.
pool.
I'd give it a few days.
That's it. As far as I'm concerned, to anybody who owns a pool or a hot tub who listens to this podcast, turn off the pump, let it settle, let gravity do the work.
Let it mellow. Wait, what is it? If it's
Yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, let it drown.
What if it's a floater?
Well, usually you're not going to get a whole turd that's a floater. Like if there's corn or beans, they kind of float to the top. You're going to have to skim those off.
I think shop vac all the nozzles, get it to the bottom before you even turn it on. So
You have mechanical,
Right.
biological,
Yeah.
chemical.
Yeah.
These are all the ways to treat it.
Okay.
You let gravity do its thing. If it'll settle to the bottom,
Yeah.
just let it settle to the bottom and vacuum it off.
That's what I'm thinking.
Waste it onto the ground.
Right.
If it's floating, then you're gonna have to skim
Yeah,
it.
do a Matthew Perry and just scoop
If
them
it's a
off the
suspended
top.
if it's a suspended solid,
Wait, we were waiting for the joke.
then you're
This
gonna
might be
have to
too
use
soon, then.
chlorine or something that'll make it coagulate and
Yeah.
fall and,
Okay.
and come out in the filter.
All right.
So, John, is there?
right.
Can you solve one last thing? Is there actually a solution that turns water blue if you pee in the pool?
Is there? Not that I know of,
Oh,
but there are. But there are any number of
A tattletale chlorine.
You'd
Yeah.
be more like there's blue, like you could do purple, like there's stuff that you use for testing.
Okay.
What is it? Oh shit! It turns things pink.
Okay.
Or it's pink, and then you put something in it, and it goes clear.
Okay.
Or vice versa.
Okay.
That's, I forget what the chemical.
But if you
is.
did put that in a pool,
And somebody hosed it down, it would show.
maybe.
maybe. But the problem is, I just assume every pool I've ever been in has
But
been pissed in
urine-
1,000 times.
Urine's sterile.
Right.
The problem is it just has a lot of ammonia in it.
That's
a lot of flavor.
so. Your daughter's lifeguarding,
Yeah.
right? A lifeguard told me that, the burny part of going in the
yeah,
pool and the
pee.
burning part of your eyes and the smelly smell, that's not the natural chlorine on its own. That's the reaction between the chlorine and the ammonia in your piss.
Yes.
And so the reason your eyes burn and it smells so bad is because somebody's been pissing in it. So you take a pool that hasn't ever had, like nobody's pissed in it in fresh water, right? And has the same chlorine load in it, you're fine. You let in 100 third graders, there's 100 kids pissing in the pool, all of a sudden gets the odor, eyes burn.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's the reaction with the ammonia.
I heard that too.
Yeah, so that like the chlorine itself is not the problem, but it's the reaction between the chlorine and the ammonia, I guess, that are supposed to be what makes your eyes burn so much.
Stay away from the pool.
Fuck, man. I mean, yeah.
Chlorine is actually a gas, an odorless, colorless.
Right.
I mean, you wouldn't know it if chlorine was there. You're smelling everything else.
You're smelling the reaction to the chlorine. That makes perfect sense too. Okay, now I'm learning something. Yeah.
So those of you turning in right now,
If you can smell the chlorine,
we have now.
it's got something in it.
That's a test for a chlorine leak. You take a rag soaked in ammonia,
Yeah.
and you hold it near the tank, and it'll make a white cloud.
Really?
React with the ammonia.
Wait, if you have a chlorine leak, which could kill you.
Yeah.
So if you have chlorine in your pool or whatever your thing is.
Well, it's different. Water treatment plants use chlorine gas.
Gas.
So what you're using in a pool is
Right.
actually
Different.
like
That's
bleach.
pellets. Those are, yeah.
So hydrochloride.
Yeah. Damn. So if you're worried about a chlorine gas, if you take an ammonia rag, you'll see smoke.
Yeah, it'll make a
white cloud.
And do you just breathe that in? Or?
Dude, that's a fucking cool tactic, though. That's some kind of cool shit right there. I suspect they may have died from chlorine gas.
We have now changed the profile of the
whole
entire
thing of my EPA class 2.
I like that. I like that. All right.
Watch defunded on YouTube for making chlorine gas bombs or some shit.
They've gotten rid of them because they were like, there's like 1 ton, there's rail car size fucking cylinders of chlorine. Like that can take
Candy
out
stripers.
It can take out a whole neighborhood.
When I was a cop, they taught us that if it was a white rail car with a red stripe down the side, that those were called candy stripers, and those were the chlorine gas, because if it's punctured, there is no safe distance.
Most of the freshwater treatment plants are using liquid.
Okay. Yeah. And I haven't seen a white rail car or white tank with a red stripe on the side, and I don't know how fucking long.
Most people aren't using that anymore.
Yeah.
That was very common for probably 40 years.
Oh, I mean, when I was on the job, it was part of our hazmat training. We had to, that was part of hazmat certification, was you had to identify certain rail cars and know what they were all about. Cool. Anybody else got anything else? Fuck it, man. I learned something. That's it, man. Ride fast and take chances. Play us out, John.
Bum, 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 bum,